I am calling to order the Panama City Commission meeting for February 10th. We're going to start out with an opening prayer by Dr. Williams, pastor, St. John's Missionary Baptist Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Brian Granger. Please rise.
Let's pray together. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, God who has brought us thus far on the way, God who has by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in your path, we pray. It is again in your wonderful name that we have come into this place and this space, that we may be able to laud and magnify you all the more. We are here to do the biddings of your business within our city, and we ask that you would cover us and keep us and manifest your protective power all around us. Bless our commission, our mayor, and all of those that make city work happen. And then bless, God, our entire area and our entire region, even our entire nation, that you might be able to get the glory in the midst of all things, and there may not be a mistake in knowing that you are God and God alone. Manifest yourself now in this place and have your way. Be glorified in the heavens, be glorified in the earth, and be glorified in each and every one of us, your temples, for worship and adoration unto you. It is in the mighty and the majestic and the marvelous, miraculous name of your Son, Jesus, that we do declare these things, and we are covered by your will. And all the people said, amen.
Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Mayor Branch.
Present.
Commissioner Granger.
Present.
Commissioner Street.
Here.
Commissioner Hughes.
Here.
Commissioner Lucas.
Present.
Mayor, you have quorum.
You've received the meeting minutes from January 27th. Do you have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do you have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger.
Yes.
Commissioner Street.
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes.
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas.
Yes.
Mayor Branch.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Is there any additions, deletions, or modifications?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Staff has two. We would like to add a discussion on the St. Andrews Soccer Club and Oak Grove Field. You all remember this came up Saturday morning at the town hall, so that would follow 12F. And then additionally, we would like to relocate item 12C regarding the budget amendment resolution for City Marina Partners, and then also item 12E, report on the design of the infrastructure needs for the downtown marina with a phasing approach to follow that new addition for the St. Andrews Soccer Club, so that the two items for the downtown marina would come at the end of this morning's agenda. That is all from staff, Mr. Mayor.
I have one addition. I'd like to add the city clerk's retirement announcement following audience participation.
That would be a new 8 or 7A?
You can just put 7A. I think that's fine.
And I have one as well.
Okay.
So I'm writing all this down so I can make the motion.
Did you say something, sir?
Yep,
We're writing.
we're writing. Just give me a minute.
While Commissioner Granger's writing, Mayor, I'd like to mention, this doesn't affect the agenda, but I did have an item under the downtown marina, which I would ask for an opportunity to take that back and work on. It had to do with the reimbursement
Table?
cost.
Table 12C.
Well, it's not
Just
the
remove?
entire thing. In other words, 12C has a lot of stuff in there. And one little thing is the letter from me. And I'm happy to talk about
Yep.
it at the time.
Okay, you'll lead 12C.
But I won't be asking for action today.
Gotcha.
That's it. Thank you, that's all.
Do you need me to include that?
No.
Okay, all right. So I motion, does anybody else have anything else?
Sorry, let people know.
All right, I'd like to motion that 12F be added for a discussion on St. Andrews Soccer Club, and that 12 Charlie and 12 Echo move to after 12F, and that we table 10 Alpha to March, the first meeting in March, and that we add 7 Alpha, the clerk's resignation.
A lot of changes. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas? Yes. Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
We are in community announcements.
February is all about connection, and we want you to be in the know. Sign up for City Communications and get updates straight to your inbox or phone. From our monthly newsletter to real-time alerts like water service, we'll keep you close to the heart of the community. Scan the QR code or visit panamacity.gov to sign up today, because staying informed is something to love. All city offices will be closed on Monday, February 16th in observance of President's Day. There will be no change to the garbage collection schedule. The MLK Junior Recreation Center will have special holiday hours on President's Day and will be open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Panama City's Charter Review Advisory Board is actively engaged in a comprehensive review of the city charter. Their next review meeting is Thursday, February 19th at 12 noon in room 236 at City Hall. And the Panama City Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee has gathered community input regarding parks under considerations for potential consolidation. For more information on both, please visit the city's website at panamacity.gov. Black Love, Art and Music of Panama City will host its Black History Through Music Showcase on Thursday, February 19th at 1 p.m. in the City Hall Rotunda. The event will celebrate Black history through music, featuring local vocalists, musicians, and spoken word artists. Save the date for the annual CRA Social set for Thursday, February 19th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. in the Rotunda of City Hall. Panama City CRA Socials are informal community gatherings where residents can meet the Community Redevelopment Agency team, learn about projects and priorities, and share feedback to help guide future improvements across the city's redevelopment districts. And the Incremental Development Alliance, in partnership with the Panama City Community Redevelopment Agency, will host a small developer boot camp beginning the end of this month on February 26th. This 5-week intensive training program will take place at City Hall and is designed to equip local entrepreneurs with the practical skills needed to develop small-scale projects that strengthen our Panama City neighborhoods. Register today by visiting our website or simply scan the QR code here on the screen. Early bird registration is available through February 11th, which is tomorrow, with regular registration continuing through February the 23rd. That's all the announcements, Mr. Mayor.
6A.
You know what? I don't have 6A. That is a problem. I apologize. Item 6 is not in my binder. Hang tight one sec.
I'll be happy to take it.
All right, go ahead, sir. I don't know where it went. Sorry.
6A is a public hearing, and this is a draft that's really for discussion purposes and to allow it to be available for any public input. It was placed as a public hearing, and Natalie McSwain, who is our Chief Assistant City Attorney, is going to come and walk us through this particular ordinance, but it's a proposal for discussion, amendment to Chapter 12, adding an article as to railroad right-of-way vegetation drainage and nuisance maintenance. Ms. McSwain.
Thank you. Natalie McSwain with Berg Blue Law Firm on behalf of the city here. Just to present to you that this is, of course, just a first reading for discussion. The right-of-way maintenance ordinance is here to help alleviate the cost incurred by the city in maintaining these right-of-ways along the railroad. Inherently, it's been difficult to get in touch with anyone from the railroad company to come and cut their own rights-of-ways. Currently, the city has a code that requires any property within the city of Panama City to maintain their nuisances, and specifically abate nuisances where overgrowth is in excess of 1 foot in height. In this sense, this is a unique ordinance that not only requires the abatement of this overgrowth, but what it is set up to do is to allow the city to go and maintain that nuisance after providing 30 days notice. The city does not have to provide 30-day notice on all nuisances. This one would require a 30-day notice. And after that 30-day notice, if the railroad company who is charged with maintaining their right-of-way does not come and clean their right-of-way, the city can invoice the railroad for that cost. And if that cost is not paid, so basically it's a code enforcement lien. If that cost is not paid, it would then go on the nuisance assessment roll that the city adopts every year and placed on any property that the railroad owns within the city as a cost of nuisance assessment.
Okay, that's just a general overview of the ordinance, and of course, this is a public hearing that would be available to answer any questions. Thank you.
And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Why is it that we have to specifically single out the railroad when there's other people across Panama City that are violating the same thing?
I don't know that we're specifically trying to just single them out. What we're trying to do is make it an easier mechanism for the city to receive costs for abatement. The city's been maintaining the railroad, and it's hard to, notice them and have them come to a code enforcement hearing if we haven't been able to really get in touch with them. The city could not do this ordinance and continue with what we've been doing, but the goal is to just make it more of a cost share on them. The railroad is already required under the Code of Federal Regulations to maintain their right-of-way, but the city as a municipality cannot enforce the Code of Federal Regulations. So we have to adopt our own laws in order to, help us enforce those codes.
Thank you.
So this isn't, this is not us agreeing for Jonathan to go spend a bunch of money maintaining more right-of-ways. This just gives us permission, if we need to, we can clean something up and then bill them for it later.
Yes.
In a sense, yeah.
And if I can draw the attention to why this is incredibly important, a significant portion of the city drains through the ditches that are adjacent to what is railroad right-of-way. And historically, I was actually sharing with Nevin yesterday, I was able to pull up some minutes from previous commissions. This has been an issue since the 60s. And it wasn't until change of ownership that happened in, I don't know when it was, that Genesee and Wyoming actually purchased the railroad property. There used to be staff on the railroad. As a matter of fact, I think Mike Jones was the person that worked for Earl Durden cutting the railroad right away. And so the city has kind of gotten into this spot where we're maintaining private property because it does belong to private property. But if that private property is not maintained, neighborhoods flood. Mm-hmm. And so this is not just a simple, hey, what makes it different? There's a significant difference here than in other things because it puts people and property at risk. And there are certain parts of this which are defined in this ordinance that are federally regulated, and then there's certain parts that fall underneath the jurisdiction of the city. And so we've clearly defined what that is both federally enforced and what is city enforced.
Any other questions? This is a public hearing. If you wish to speak about this item, please come forward. Please state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes.
Derek Thomas, 1100 West 10th Street. This property is the same property that I've been complaining about for years, that the city's had the right to develop it as a public right-of-way, a public path that connects the downtown with the rest of the city. We have had the right as a city to develop that and put it to use for the people that live here. And that's been in place for more than 10 years. city has chosen not to take that option and not to develop it and not to put it to use for the city and the people that live here. So for us to say now that we've got the right to develop it and use it to benefit the whole city, we can put just a pathway on top of where the railroad track used to be, and a couple of benches or some lights, and that's it. Imagine how much cheaper it would be to do that than to take some other piece of land and try to, rip up all the trees on Beach Drive and turn it into a path. This could be an actual usable path that would be safe, where people could ride a bike without having to deal with getting run over by cars. This could be a very useful and valuable part to this city, but it's not being developed that way. And you sit on and do nothing, and now you say, oh, well, we want you to pay to mow the grass and take care of the stuff that 10 years ago we could have turned into a usable path for the city and the people that live here. I had to go, if you're talking about the public right-of-way, I had to go on 98 east down to the other side of the city. There's palms that push people out into the road. There's nothing but a 4-foot sidewalk and a road, and the palm fronds are so heavily grown into the sidewalk that it makes you go around them and almost into the road. And I don't believe that the people that use that sidewalk were bringing bags full of pebbles and rocks and scattering it all over the sidewalk. There's no longer any businesses there, so it's dark at night, it's dangerous, it hasn't been cleaned up in years, and all the palms and everything on the side of it that force people out near the road is dangerous. I think you should consider that. And I don't know that in less than a minute I can get into the drainage that the city has not taken care of. So to say for somebody else that they have to take care of their drainage because it's inconveniencing the rest of the city, that is something that is really disturbing to hear you say when you talk about that, but you don't talk about all the other stuff that the city owns, that the city's not maintaining, and could be making the drainage so much better. Across the street from us, there's high-density housing, and there's a drainage ditch that used to be there, and instead of fixing that up while they were taking care of the housing, they just completely ignored it and let it overgrow. That's doing the same thing that the railroad track would be doing, too. You've ignored that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on item 6A?
So just for clarification, we're talking about an active railroad. We're not going to rip up any tracks.
I think it'd be good to put out a
Okay.
Rails to Trail update, just where we're at with the
Well,
Rails to Trail progress.
I don't have an update on that
Yeah,
today,
not
but
right now.
that's
but just in
totally
general.
separate, yeah.
But that's kind of what he was alluding to, as a Rails to Trails project. Anyone else on item 6A? Seeing no more comments, closing 6A. This is the first reading.
Okay, first reading of ordinance 3299, an ordinance of the City of Panama City, Florida, amending Chapter 12 to require maintenance of railroad rights-of-way by railroad owners and operators outside of the operational tract and ballast zone area, providing for vegetation, drainage, and nuisance control outside of the immediate ballast area, and providing for severability clause, repealer provision, codification, and an effective date.
We are in audience participation. If you'd like to speak about any of the remaining agenda items, please come forward, give us your name and address, and also let us know which agenda item you're speaking about today. Anything on the remaining agenda?
And Mr. Mayor, if anybody came in late, as a reminder, we did add the St. Andrews Soccer Club and Oak Grove Field, so if anybody wants to speak for that, that has been added to the agenda today.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good morning, everybody. My name is David Nettesel. I live at 145 Lake Muriel Shores. I am here to speak on Agenda 8E. Thank you very much for this being on the agenda. I want a special thank you to the mayor, to Commissioner Street, and to City Manager Hayes. You all kind of helped push this through a little bit to at least get it on the agenda. We appreciate it. So I'm here on behalf of the founder and owner of 30A Distilling Company. Brian Rabin unfortunately had previous travel plans and wasn't able to make it, so I'm here to try and help out. So it's on the agenda, and I read the agenda, and it basically states that the staff recommends the approval. And this is for us to be able to sell cork-sealed liquor at the market of St. Andrews Farmers Market. One thing that I did not notice on the request form is the fact that specifically, something that's very important is for us to be able to do tastings. Now, on the statute, the Florida statute 565-17 states that tastings are allowed at farmers market liquor sales, but it's not on the form. So I just wanted to make sure before we go any further that everybody understands that there would be tastings. Now, when I say tastings, to define that, we're talking about samples of 1/16 of an ounce. So if you think about a standard cocktail would have 1 ounce of liquor, these tastings would be 1/16 of an ounce with a maximum of 2 per person, period. Brian Rabin is very intent on making sure that everything's done above board, which again was one of the reasons that I'm here. We just want to make sure that everybody understands that even though it wasn't listed on there, we were, I guess, assuming that we're kind of following the statute, but we want to make sure that everybody understands that there would be tastings of 1/16, maximum 2. 1/16 of an ounce, maximum 2. But I just want to make sure that everybody understood that before we go any further.
Mr. Zimmerman, does that change anything related to legalities of the park or selling of alcohol versus tasting of alcohol versus, you know?
Yeah, we weren't aware of the tastings.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was reflected in the application. So we'd just request that we go back and look at this
Yeah.
issue. You know, I think we have plenty of time to bring it back to the commission.
Yes.
Is that what?
Yes, so just so everybody understands, 38 Distilling Company does carry a $1 million certificate of liability insurance. The certificate holder could be whomever, City of Panama City, could be the Market of St. Andrews, whatever the case, whoever we need to put on there would be on there for the certificate holder for indemnification.
So when we come to that, I think it would be appropriate to pull that off consent, table it, and let us bring it back.
Yeah, we just wanted, we wanted to make sure
So
that
thank
everybody,
you.
we didn't want any surprises.
Yes, we appreciate you coming.
So in your other areas of farmers markets, are they on city property, are they on government properties or private properties?
Either. It is a certificate of liability insurance for, as far as
Where you
these,
serve where you interact with farmers markets
Oh,
and
yes.
other locations, are they on private sites or are they on government sites?
it's actually a combination of both, Commissioner. Yeah.
Awesome, thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay? Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Anyone else about any other agenda item today? Please come forward. Yes, ma'am. Come on down. Just let us know your name and address and which agenda item you're speaking on today.
I'm sorry?
Just your name and address for the role and also the agenda item you're speaking on today.
Okay, my name is Lakeitha Ash. My address is 2608 Broadmoor Drive, Columbus, Georgia. Here in Panama City, St. Andrew area.
Perfect. And which agenda item?
I'm sorry?
Which agenda item are you speaking on?
Well, I just want to talk about my Still Standing initiative. And
What was the issue?
it's Still Standing initiative. I have an event that's coming here
Yeah.
on February 21st, and I just wanted to kind of discuss that.
We only discuss agenda items on the agenda today.
Oh, it has to be agenda?
So is Jared here to give her a card? Can we get her a card so she can meet with
Is
staff?
who?
Jared's
Oh,
gonna
no,
give
he's not here today, but if it's an event, Keith in the back, raise your hand, sir, if you want to get, he's our Parks, Culture, and Recreation Department
Okay.
Director. Thank you.
All righty.
Yes,
It's
sir.
really not an event, it's more like an initiative that I have coming. But when do you discuss those events here in the area?
We would discuss with staff and then we'd bring them to the.
I mean, not events, but initiatives.
Who would you discuss it with?
Does the council or commissioner accept those types of
I'd honestly have to
notification?
present to staff and they would bring it and put it on the agenda for us to vote on. So you would talk to Keith. Keith, raise your hand back here.
The
Okay.
what about the
It's-
town hall?
Or the town halls. Yeah, the town halls on Saturdays as well.
Town halls on when?
Saturdays.
Every Saturday?
No, first Saturday.
First
of every
Saturday.
month.
Or Saturdays? Okay,
Yeah.
awesome, I'll come back.
Yeah, just make sure Keith make sure you get a card and she'll.
All
hand it
righty.
off.
Do you all as commissioners have personal emails or
We do.
city emails that you can receive outside
And we'll set up meetings with you as well.
Okay, awesome. I'll do it that way
Yes,
as
ma'am.
well. Thank you.
Keith, if you'll share our email contacts with her as well. I was talking, he's going to share our email contacts with you as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for coming and thank you for everything that you do.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Anyone else? Agenda items today? Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning.
Michelle Bryant, 409 East 9th Street. I have about 5 things, so I'm going to talk fast as I can. So first thing, Jonathan, I wasn't here, but I was watching. When they brought up our event, you didn't mention it when it came to community events.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it was up there, but you didn't mention it.
Well, I read the script, but I apologize.
It's okay, hon. Lunch on you. Second thing,
The event was mentioned, and he read it.
yeah, I didn't hear it. So lunch
Someone
on me.
didn't hear me speaking? Wow, I've never been.
It was on the line, so on the phone, so.
All right.
So second, my question is regarding the MLK rate sheet that is being noted for approval on today's agenda. My question is, with the suggestions that you received from the NAACP, emails that you may have received from people such as myself and other individuals, why wasn't this brought to the table, back to the community for a vote, so that you could get the consensus of the community on which direction they would like to go? The third question is in regards to this resolution regarding the water bill and the fact that if someone has 6 times the account holder's bill, then there could be an investigation into foregoing that bill. Looking at some other states and other municipalities, 3 times is the normal rate, so what was the deciding factor to make it 6 times? Fourth, the staff report. Can we get specific data on this report? For example, on the CRA line, it says 2 programs, but what are those 2 programs? If we could get that extended pivot point where we could see specifically what is being referenced. And then last, I didn't hear about the soccer club being added to the agenda. I was driving and trying not to crash. Why are we still talking about the soccer club when the community made it very clear that that wasn't something they were interested in? So hopefully we can get that information and get the reason why we are still having those conversations today. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Brenda Lewis Williams, 2748 Oak Hammock Drive, 32401. Miss, can my time stop for a minute, please? Thank you. Jan, I'm sorry to hear that you resigned. I'm truly sorry. That just really hurts my heart. And I just need to say that because as a city clerk treasurer, you have done an excellent job per accounting practices, not anything else. I took enough accounting to know that that's what you did, okay?
It's a happy occasion. I'm retiring.
That's fine, but I'm sorry to hear you're going. Okay.
Thank you. Let's start the time. Yes, ma'am. We're ready.
Excuse me?
We're ready for you. Yes, ma'am.
Not really, but anyway, a little bit of levity. How's everybody this morning? As far as the water bills are concerned, briefly put, did we not discuss this last year and Jan came up with a solution, so why are we bringing it back? Seems like that's a frivolous waste of time. You have not answered my question in reference to non-agenda items per the statute. Why can we not get answers during the commission meeting? Because we're not getting them anywhere else, period. St. Andrews Soccer Club. We have discussed this ad nauseum. And I'm with Michelle, why is it back on the agenda? I watched the town hall meeting. 8 o'clock in the morning is too early for me. I only make 8 o'clock for city commission meetings. But why are we still discussing this? It seems that there is a pull from inside as well as outside to make sure that this club gets this piece of property. Now, throughout history, historically black property has been confiscated and commandeered. That is an historical site. You have your rules, follow them. Don't bend them to suit one group of people. Follow the rules that you have put in place. I don't understand why we continue to discuss this, and I understand the letter was put out that they could go anywhere else in the city, county to get a field, and there's an abundance of them. They have no business commandeering that field. That field belongs to the community. It should stay as a community entity per parks, per the city ordinance. Don't go there, Brenda. Anyway, why are we still discussing this? I don't care what their rationales are. We shouldn't be discussing this. You all said no at one point in time. Now you're coming back and you're going to discuss it again to appease a select group of folks? That doesn't even make sense. You can't make sense out of nonsense, folks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Patty Sunday, 1115 Fairland. On the water policy, I'm representing myself and my husband, who is a utilities engineer, and he thought it was fabulous. Do you remember, I think Pat Sebastian is the one that started this dialogue. When that happened, she called me, and Rick sat down with her and went over her water bills and explained all the things that it might be. And so I showed it to him last night, and other places that we have lived and other places that he works, there are policies like this, and he wanted to offer his congratulations on such a good policy and making it be in print. And he told me one time, Jan, that when he monitors them, he gets a flag at 3 times, right? And that's when you start watching it. But because of the cyclical nature of water and leaks, that he agreed that 6 times was when you would take action, because at 3 times you start looking at it because of different seasonal things. So I'm here to offer my congratulations. It took y'all a long time because it's a difficult issue, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Good morning.
Hi, I'm Willie Morris, address 3906 Alva Thomas Road, Panama City. I'm here on the 12A consideration as well for the approval of the membership and rental fee schedule for the Martin Luther King Jr. Rec Center. In addition to that, when you guys begin to get into the agreement or the approved numbering, that has been kind of consolidated or approved by the community. There are leaders in the community that have expertise in certain things in regards to those numbers. So I've spoken with several of the commissioners in regards to my input and expertise in that. But one of the things I wanted to offer or talk about to alert the public on as to how we can diversify the offerings and a strategy to increase the revenue of the Martin Luther King Jr. facility and to offset some of the operating and maintenance costs. Currently, the offering that I want to offer is allowing youth and adult basketball tournaments to be facilitated there. If you don't know, tournament hosting is a $40 billion industry, and the potential revenue can range from 1,000 to, 1,000 to tens of thousands for local and weekend events. But then on the higher tier of it, it can range from 30 to 60,000 for large-scale multi-day regional tournaments. So that's kind of my expertise. I'm a community leader, advocate, coach, pastor, teacher, educator, business owner, you name it. Those are the tiers that I operate in to, build community impact and bring forth revenue streams for this area. So I would love to see what you guys have to say. I will sit down with any of you again to discuss the details of the higher ranges, and also including specialized events such as galas, balls in the utilized open space of the gym rather than just court usage. But there are so many other use cases for this facility that have not been discussed and probably didn't need to be discussed due to not having a venue of it. Typical tournaments that we host here utilizes all of Bay County school gyms. So as you can see, that's at a rate of an hourly rate, multiply that times the amount of teams, it adds up. By having it at one place, utilizing it during the non-peak hours of the facility will garner a lot more revenue. So that's something to consider.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Walter P. Henry, 614 Maple Avenue, Panama City. I like a question to be answered by the commissioners, by the city. I don't know what y'all pay for water bills for the county. And I don't know why customers' bills get so high that they cannot afford to pay them. Like I said on Saturday, y'all can read these meters at every house. If they're leaking, if they're steady running, and y'all could let these people know it's your water bill, you got a leak. City buys water from the county. City get a bill, more like I hope, you might not, from the county. If you owe our water bill that the customers, that city customers pay every month, is y'all bill higher than what y'all receiving from us? Probably yes. We let our line leak too long. I've been looking at a line for a couple of months. Nobody never fixed it, still leaking. I walk by a house every morning, a leak inside the house. I don't know if it's just meter leaking or what. Folks probably refuse to even call and complain because they do not get an answer. Then the next thing, they don't get the service that they deserve. So y'all need to start. Y'all trying to get everything else, but get everything right. But some things we try to put in that we don't already have enough on our plates. That we're trying to buy things that go cost the city more money. The city gonna have to get more people to operate. So y'all need to see about getting these leaks fixed. Then your meter bill that the county charges you will go down.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Gregory Dawsey, P.O. Box 35894, Panama City 32412. I'd like to thank the different commissioners and the mayor for the opportunity to meet with them. And Commissioner Street, we got your message late, and we know that you would normally meet with us on any issue. So, we excuse you because you are always there for us. We presented 3 proposals. One was no fees, and Ms. Sunday, she was the Economic Development Director, I believe was her title for the city of Panama City. She came up with some grants and stuff to supplement that. The second proposal was no fee for Panama City residents only. And then the third proposal, since it seemed like the city was leaning towards fees, we presented a fee proposal with 2 key words that the city seems hesitant to put in there. The 2 words are sliding scale. And I know Mr. Jonathan expressed some concerned about his staff being overwhelmed for doing the verification process, if I understood you correctly. So, but I do want to say that will be an initial surge, because once, the initial surge is over, then it'll, trickle here and there. And also someone at the rec center could be trained to do that. And we want that with one person because we're talking about a lot of information, personal information. And we also did suggestions about they can use, if they have SSI benefits, if they have EBT benefits, different things like that. And the city has gotten some sponsorships, and we say those could supplement where the sliding scale doesn't work. But by leaving off those two keywords, sliding scale, what happens when there are no more sponsorship dollars? Because a lot of companies start out with good intentions, the economics hit a rough turn, and then they have to pull out. So we have to look at it for the long run. We have to get it right the first time, and not saying this commission, but our history with previous commissions are, if it's not in writing initially, it won't be enforced. So I want to make sure that those keywords are in there, sliding scale, and that way there will be no confusion where people will think we have to pay $0 or $100 or whatever that is. But sliding scale is the keywords. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Anyone else? Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. Glad to be here this morning. Rufus Wood, 1911 East 10th Street. I think all of you know it is my joy and honor to serve as the president for the Bay County branch of NAACP. As I was sitting there thinking, I was thinking about one of my mentors, the late Reverend P.L. Glover. As young clergy, he used to work with us, and he taught us that it's very, very important working with other people. He used to brag about his church. He said, all of the members of New Bethel Missionary Baptist Church, all of them are working. We said, what do you mean? He said, some are working with me, and some are working against me. Now, I said that to say that I'm so glad that in this community, we endeavor to work with the government. I think it's important for government and community to work together. I know we don't always agree on everything, but I think it's so important that we work together. So that's what we endeavor to do. So I want to express my profound gratitude to Commissioner Lucas, as well as to the mayor and all of the commissioners that we had an opportunity to talk with. And as Mr. Dawson said, we were not able to meet with Commissioner Street, but he did call, so we do appreciate that. We did come together, and I thought it was important that the community come together. We had a community meeting. In fact, we had a couple of community meetings, and it was open to the public. No, the Bay County branch does not speak for everybody in the community, but I thought it was important to bring the community together, because when Commissioner Lucas and Brother Jonathan held the meeting over at Glenwood Community Center, what I heard was a lot of fussing and fuming, crying, and complaining, and I guess people had the right to do that. Sometimes we need to vent. But I thought it was important that we get together and put something to present to the commissioners. That was the purpose of the meeting. We came together, as it already been forestated. We came up with 3 proposals. The people sat around the tables and worked. It was brainstorming. So what you have came from the community. I didn't sit down and put it together. The people in the community did that. So I hope that you will give consideration to what has been shared with you. And again, thank you so very, very much for meeting with us, those of you that took time to meet with us. Again, we want to work with you as opposed to working against you. Helen Keller say we can do so much together, we can do so little apart. So we want to continue to work with you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Come on down, Mr. Marshall. He's been hopping up every time, waiting for someone else to go. Yes, sir.
Virgil Marshall, 1611 Lincoln Avenue, Panama City, Florida. Jonathan, I wish Jared was here, because he opened up a point here to talk about the soccer club. I don't know what item number that is. I understand that they want to reduce or no fee for a nonprofit. They're locked in for 2 weeks, and after that, it's up in question. Which item number was that? It was added. Okay. One, in October, they said they had $40,000 to resod that. 4 months later, they want to reduce the fee. I was okay with them renting it. I think anybody ought to be able to rent it. It's a city park. But if they want it for a reduced or a no fee because they're nonprofit, they're collecting a lot of money, $400, $800, okay? If they don't want to pay for it at the end of the 2 weeks, Jared asked for a check, I got one. I'll rent it for the community for the next 3 weeks. Here you go.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning. Rachel Boswell, 119 Cottonwood Circle, Lynn Haven, but representing St. Andrews Soccer Club, operating at 1726 Frankfurt Ave, Panama City. We don't have $40,000. The proposal that we set was, yes, we are going to offer $40,000. That does not mean we have it in the bank, that we were going to fundraise, we were going to get a loan. Our president was going to invest his own money. So no, we do not have $40,000. We are looking to utilize Oak Grove Field at Robert Mary Kane Park for the spring season because it has been determined with Keith Merrill, the Parks and Rec manager, that there's not a safe space for soccer to play in Panama City currently, as we discussed at the town hall meeting on Saturday. Oak Grove Field is the only current field for this season that we can utilize safely without worry for injury for the children that we are servicing of Panama City. They are coming from your local community, from Ward 2, from Ward 1, from Ward 3, from Ward 4, the majority of our children. We want the field 2 nights a week. We would like to utilize it 2 nights a week. That's what we're asking for the spring season, which would run for the rest of February to May. We never said we wouldn't pay, but we are asking that the fee either be reduced or waived, as is the precedent that has been set for other nonprofit organizations within the city of Panama. That is a precedent that has already been set, and you as the commission are the ones that can waive that fee, and it has been done before. We are asking that because we have a fee to pay. We have a fee to play, you're right, but so does every other sport. Football has a fee to play. Cheerleading has a fee to play. Baseball has a fee to play. It doesn't mean that we're rich. We have coaches that we are paying. These are legitimate coaches that have MLS coaching experience, plus a coaching overseas experience. So we're paying them to instruct the children how to properly play soccer, but also to grow and challenge themselves. We just want to play soccer. We hope that the city can continue to work with us and create a long-term plan, and we will happily move to Frank Nelson Park if we can get the field up to safety for the children. I, as a mom, would not let my kids go play soccer right there after walking that field. I couldn't do it. I couldn't risk their future because they could be seriously injured. I also know that you have all received 2 emails from Jillian Goldhagen and Kelly Fuqua this morning that they would like to be read for the record because they unfortunately couldn't make it this morning. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. We just want to play soccer. That's all we're asking. We're asking 2 nights a week through May. That's it. And then if you can provide us a different field, if we can work together to get Frank Nelson up to par, we will move from Oak Grove. And we don't want to fight with the community. We were playing with kids this weekend, actually, from the local community because the field was locked and they jumped the fence to go play soccer themselves. And so we went out and we're playing with them and chatting with them as well. So the kids of the community do want to play soccer because they were there this weekend. We saw them.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning.
James Lee, 1620 Fountain Avenue, Panama City 32405. Here because of the St. Andrews Soccer Club situation. First of all, I represent this, which is an acronym for the Hill Improvement Society. And we were formed to look out for the benefits of the Hill. Not that we don't have an excellent commissioner, and Ms. Lucas, she is an excellent commissioner, but she represents a large area. We just represent the Hill. We have no animosity against St. Andrews Soccer Club. So why do we come out in opposition to the fact that they want a priority agreement and that they want a no fee because they are a nonprofit club? First of all, and I gave copies of this to the commissioners, the key difference is that St. Andrews Soccer Club is that. It is a club. And this is just information that I downloaded from online with fees of up to $800, $850 per members. And one of the things that's included in that is the indoor training at the St. Andrews Soccer Lab. One of the things, and I think this is the main reason that they want this field, is because it's next door to the St. Andrews Soccer Lab. St. Andrews Soccer Club is that. It is a club with a 501c7 designation, not a 501c3, but a 501c7, meaning that it is a club with members. They do not represent the Hill community. I dare say that there is not a member of the Hill community that is a member of the St. Andrews Soccer Club. I asked my neighbor the other day, why didn't he go out? Because he likes to play soccer and he's always at the field. And he said because his parents could not afford it. I understand that, they sometimes offer scholarships, but he said his parents could not afford it. They are not representative of the Hill community. Therefore, we urge the commission to not adopt a priority schedule for St. Andrews Soccer Club, nor a no fee or a reduced fee schedule. This field, the Robert and Mary Kane Park, is a historic field. It has historical designation. It has been, and it was given to the Hill community because there was no area for them to use. They would have to go across 98 to go to Oakland Terrace Field. So the field was given to the community. We would like for it to stay a part of the community. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? Good morning.
Morning, y'all. Carter Dye, 22620 Panama City Ave. I'm here talking in regards to St. Andrews Soccer Club, and in all honesty, I have one simple thing to share with you all. I spoke with the president, Cameron, every day in the last week. We actually had a conversation last week about scholarship specifically. I got word from the president that 5 of our players are on full, complete scholarship. Cameron is more than willing to work with any family in the area in regards to making it work, because soccer is the point of this. The point of this nonprofit is not to make money. The point is to spread soccer to the community. And if the community would like to reach out to Cameron, he would be more than happy to work with them.
Thank you. Anyone else related to the agenda items for today? Yes, sir.
Derek Thomas, 1100 West 10th Street on 11A, the St. Andrews bulkheads. I think it's just very interesting, again, that the only company to bid for the marina was the Gormans. It's at $12 million. And the city put up $12.9 million in exchange for 2% of the revenue. Jan, I don't know how you do it. You did a great job considering the situation you put in. I think you did a very good job, and I do not blame you at all for retiring. I know when I'm finished speaking, I'm leaving. I'll check back online to find out what happens, but yeah, I'm not sure that anything I say would make any difference. On the end of the meeting, since you changed it around to 12E or 12 whatever for the downtown, I don't know why you went through all the process of having this big thing for the public. You got the St. Joe to come up with 5 different plans and you all voted on them. And specifically GDOC, The part where you come in, and there used to be a long dock of uninterrupted space. So anybody in a large boat could pull up. It didn't matter how big your boat was. You didn't need a specific size. It was very easy to come in and out. That's the way it was before, and it made sense. And now these plans that you're showing to the public aren't that. And it was what you voted on. So why do we even bother coming up here and talking to these meetings? If the decision is already made, if by the local groups and organizations or something, and the public isn't even allowed to participate or know where their tax money is going, how is that right? I mean, and the dock, it says on the picture, needed dock from sea break. The part where there used to be 2 sea breaks, and the boats would come in, go out one side, and come in the other side, and there was less traffic problems. And now you've made it all one thing, which might be great if it's a protected storm issue, but why does it say needed? That was a decision somebody made. It wasn't anything that you needed. You already had something there, and if you'd taken FEMA's money, they would have put it back the way it was, which meant 2 sea breaks. I mean, this whole thing is going to be millions of dollars. Where's the money going to come for that? Now, when the decision was made, October 24th, 2024, to take money from the parks, take money from the marina, and put it in Martin Luther King. I think that since this is Black History Month, that's a really appropriate way to spend the money. Where there's 2 sets of doors, one for the black people that's just a plain metal door, and a big fancy door for the white people. And the black people had to knock and go up to the 2nd floor. That's how it was originally built, right? So
You're talking about the Martin Theater.
The Martin Theater, yeah. And now it's everybody that lives here, we pay money for taxes to be used for the city, and then find out that the decisions have already been made, and we're just here to pay you money and be treated like unloved cattle. I don't appreciate it.
Thank you. Good morning.
Come on.
You can talk even though you have a brother from Jackson. It's okay.
Yeah, go right.
Good morning, everybody. Robert Kane, 1606 Lincoln Avenue, on the Robert and Mary Kane Oak Grove Park. That park has been with my family. You know, y'all dedicated, and I thank y'all for that. But why can't they use their own facility? We don't have any problem they're using it, but they have an indoor facility. And we want to know what's going on with that. And we just want our children to be able to use the park where no one can really supersede no one, because we all are equal. And I think our children need it the most. That park has been non-usable for a while, and we just want the children to be able to play, and we have cookouts and community events and church events. But we need to come to a solution, a reasonable solution, about my mom and dad's park. And that's all. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else for any other agenda items for today? Okay, closing public comments. We are in the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to accept the consent?
There was one added, 7A.
Oh, 7A. That's right. I missed that one. That's Jan's letter.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Jan for her willingness to hold a healthy transition. I'm excited for you and your farm to come, but you still got a little bit more work to do. So we're still gonna use and abuse you for a little while longer. So a lot of people don't realize, so Brandy was a clerk when I first came in, Jane came in not long after that, and for people going through disasters, the first part, definitely the city manager's job is the most difficult, but after about year 2, the clerk's job becomes the greatest challenge to navigate, trying to figure out how to ever do anything. So I'd like us to honor her request for resignation date on August 10th. So I'd move for us to accept the resignation of the city clerk effective August 10th, 2026, and for her to remain in the ex officio role or advisory as she continues her important work with the city's finances. I'd further move to designate Brandy Waldron as the interim city clerk effective immediately to ensure continuity of operations and reflect the sensitive nature of the vital role. I'd also request that the city attorney and the clerk to meet after this meeting to determine if Jan needs any other reassurances that her action does in fact honor her contract and allows her to continue working under the terms of her retirement date.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Yes, would you go through that again? A little slower.
I just so happen to have it written down. So I move to accept the resignation date of the city clerk effective August 10th, 2026, which is the date that she provided us in the letter, and to have her remain in the ex officio or advisory role as she continues to do her important work with the city finances. I further move to designate Brandy Waldron as the interim city clerk effective immediately to ensure continuity of operations and reflect the sensitive nature of this vital role. And I also request that the city attorney and the city clerk meet after this meeting to determine if Jan needs any other reassurances that this action does in fact honor her contract and allows her to continue working under those terms until her resignation date.
So effectively, it puts Brandy in the clerk's position
Interimly,
while Jan works towards retirement and in a supportive role, and then we then can also go out immediately to start trying to find a new clerk.
Yeah, we can start that process whenever we so see fit. But I would like Jan to be able to fully finish up into retirement so that she can enjoy whatever cows or anything else that she so desires to do.
So what does remain in advisory role mean? That from now until August 10th, she comes to work every day?
Yeah, whatever's needed. Ultimately, we've got the biggest thing I think Jan's expressed is the getting started on the audit, finishing up those processes. She allows us to get through, another budgetary process. And it really, part of the challenge that I know in accounting, I don't want to, speak on behalf of the team, but we've been without a deputy clerk, and so our deputy treasurer. And so that's led us to kind of have some backlog. So I think this will provide enough margin to be able to get through the things that need to, and for us to have, interim. And Brandy served in this interim role before, so this is not anything new.
And she's not here to say no.
Exactly.
You don't show up to meetings, you get extra jobs.
It's like the military, you take leave, you get assignment.
So why would we need an interim if we're keeping the clerk in employment through August 10th?
Well,
continuity.
Yeah, continuity. And I mean, I think, and I serve in a financial capacity, another role. When I tenure my resignation or whatever, this is a very sensitive position. So it allows us to have additional oversight in that period of time as well. So this is a pretty normal part of the process.
When should we put out, looking for somebody to replace?
I would not do it today.
I'm going to do that today. I'm just asking, in terms of you're bringing, just to follow up with what Commissioner Lucas is talking about, you're going to have two people. One is interim. Obviously, Jan, thank you for your service, and she's moving on her way out. Somewhere in there, we have to have somebody have come in, and I would imagine either Jan and or Brandy helping that transition. So is that not today, but is that sooner than later?
I would suggest that discussion be had at the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or workshop, virtual workshop.
Because that introduces even more questions.
Oh,
Are we looking, how we with Jonathan when he was hired? Are we looking in that method? Are we going to go out for a professional company? There's all kind of questions.
Upcoming charter changes could change the position too?
Yeah, there's that too. So, I mean.
So yeah, I think that's a whole another long conversation.
Yes.
That we don't have today.
Well, her leaving and the charter changes are not in the same time. We're gonna have to fill her position before that, because the charter changes don't come until, if any, don't come until the vote. And that's on the ballot.
I agree. You play with the rules that you have, and when the rules change, then you adjust.
And Brandy is aware.
If
I
they
mean,
change.
Brandy is aware. I mean, she served in this role before. She has no desire to be that permanently. And
Right.
so she is there to help assist in the transitionary process and make sure that we get through everything and, and in essence, allow, I mean, there's a lot of things to be done between now and June 10th. So,
Ms.
August
Smith,
10th.
does this motion make you feel good? This is a good motion. This makes you feel like we have a path forward?
I serve at the pleasure of the commission.
Well, it sounds like that you're excited.
As excited as Jared can be.
Have you, understanding that employees serve at the pleasure of the commission, have you, Commissioner Street, talked with Brandy Walton?
Yes, I was able to talk with her yesterday just to make sure, hey, hey, if I brought forth this motion, are you going to come back and reject it? She would not. She serves at the pleasure of the commission. She's been our utility player in multiple situations. She did want me to express her desire to not stay in the position for long term, as well as express her support for having Jan alongside her. That was a very important part of the process.
So inasmuch as the city clerk is one of the 3 employees that this body hires directly, and this is our first time discussing this as a body, I would respectfully like us to, one, accept the resignation sorrowfully from our city clerk, and not move to appoint an interim until we've had the kinds of discussions that we just said we need to have. And then move forward perhaps in 2 weeks at the next commission.
Understood. I respectfully disagree.
I wish Brandy was here to speak about
I think,
it.
Yes.
From my point, question is Jan not gonna work? I mean, you gonna show up and not work? I mean, why does, never been through this, it's a question. Why do we have to bring Brandy in now? Does Jan not know how to be a city clerk tomorrow when she's?
No, it doesn't have anything to do with the skill set. It has to do with everything that comes with the chartered powers that come with the position and ensuring that there's oversight into the transition. And
Okay,
so,
but that's on now. Right now, she's offered her resignation with the date set. That transition is not tomorrow, it's not immediate. So I think Commissioner Lucas's concern or question is, what would be mine is, why now versus
2 weeks.
I don't even know why 2 weeks, but Jan's going to work tomorrow, just like she's gonna go to work the next day, like she came today.
And-
I don't understand the difference in this letter today versus tomorrow, what that changes for us or for the citizen. I don't think we're gonna start stealing tomorrow.
I'll give you a couple of I'll give you a couple examples. Immediately, therefore, there's a water bill issue. Brandy is the one that's resolving the water bill issues. If there is some other decision-making piece that allows Jan to continue in her capacity without the weight of being at meetings, without the weight of carrying those particular pieces, so that she can finish up what she needs to finish up so she can enjoy her retirement. I do not feel that changes 2 weeks from now. I think now is the opportunity to do that. We have a resignation on the table. We have a motion on the table. We've gone through the review process in which everyone did not complete those, but that is a different subject. And so let's continue to move forward in a seamless fashion and honor the request. Also have someone that can manage the process interimly that has done this before.
Inasmuch as there is a disagreement, would you pull the appointment of the interim from this motion and make it separately?
Motion stands. If there's no further discussion.
Yeah, I'm in support of the motion because there is no deputy treasurer. If there was a deputy treasurer, then I could understand kind of the argument against. But since there is not one, we have an audit coming up. Every year, we have an audit coming up.
And we have not started yet.
And that is a very, very tough thing to get through. And it is not a fun thing to get through unless you're a CPA and you just enjoy those kinds of things. No offense to any CPAs out there. But having Brandy in that position, in my mind, makes it a much more ease of transition. It makes it a more cover down on all the things that are happening when we have a clerk who is leaving during this specific time. So that's why I'm in support of it.
Following that logic, we don't have a deputy treasurer right now. How have we been operating without it? Now we need it.
And limited operations. Yeah.
We've been moving a lot of money around in limited operations.
But we have not started the audit, which is due. We got to start.
Did we have a deputy treasurer when we did last year's audit?
Yes.
For me, it feels like we have a staff recommendation. You know, it seems like Brandy's on board with the transition. It would help continuity. This is not about, I don't think that Jan's doing anything nefarious. It's about giving her more time to focus on the transition and not have to be at the meetings. And so that we have more horsepower in that transition, in that department. It does feel like a lot of movement all at once right now. And I could see that perspective of like, hey, 2 weeks would give us time to kind of understand the transition better and understand unintended consequences. But if staff sees a bigger picture and they're willing to say, this makes sense to me, which it sounds like what Brandy's doing, I'm supportive of that, you know.
Yeah, likewise.
I get a letter today here, sitting here. I'm not prepared, I don't have a motion written.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's my issue. I don't walk in ready to make a motion today. I also don't know who turned in or didn't turn in their evaluations. My concern is we're too prepared when we got here, and I wasn't.
It was not my intention to have this discussed at the commission meeting today.
So I would suggest that we follow Commissioner Lucas's idea, and let's let the 2 weeks come in, and that we all have an opportunity to digest what was given to us today.
Does your motion still stand?
Call the question.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
No.
Commissioner Lucas?
No.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 3-2. Mr. Mayor, as a reminder, prior to y'all considering the consent agenda, there was a suggestion by Mr. Zimmerman that we pull off item 8E for the purpose of tabling that in regards to corked alcohol sales and samples given at Oaks Bay by the Bay Park.
I motion we approve with the exception of item 8E. We needed that table, or are we going to discuss it? You want that table?
8E.
As part of my motion, I'd like that we table 8E to, how much time y'all need?
Next meeting.
Till the the next meeting in February.
I'm not sure what University Academy has to do with this conversation. Sorry about that. So,
I'll second.
But yeah.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Just a question, there's a note for 8K chartered officers evaluations. There's no action to be taken there. Should that be removed? What are we approving if we approve that?
Just accepting of those.
Yeah, there's nothing to approve. It's there, just, it was to accept whatever's been turned in. Or it really is, there's no action to take. It's just, it had been continued, I
So would it
think.
be prudent to strike that?
That's fine.
As part of my motion, we'll strike 8 chemo.
Right.
And the second still stands?
Yes.
Any discussion? Call the roll.
Can I clarify, is 8K permanently stricken?
From today's consent agenda.
Okay.
That's my intention. I don't know about my colleagues.
I don't want it to go anywhere else on the agenda. I mean, I don't think we need to discuss it outside of that, right? That was the request. Just to strike it.
Just to strike it?
Yeah.
So no date certain to have it read in the future?
I don't see any reason to,
Okay.
but, okay.
Second stands.
Okay, please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 9A, that is my item. This job is an interesting job in that you get questions on items and you don't have the answer to them. And so here recently, as mayor, people have been tagging me in a petition and emailing me about, I think it's pronounced Creighton facilities, or, you know, people used to say the paper mill smells, and the paper mill went away and the smell's still there, and people say that the smell has gotten worse. And so when people come to me and they say, you should do something about it, I don't really have an answer. In software, we have a term called a research spike, which means go spend a small amount of time figuring out different paths of execution. And so I'm asking, and you know, the paper mill and Creighton aren't even in the city limits, unincorporated Bay County, but you smell it in Panama City. And some of my initial research, there are paths to strongly encouraging companies to have the higher standard of what they emit into our air. And I want that for us, but I don't know the mechanisms to get them to do that. And so what I'm asking is for this body to allow staff to spend, maybe it's a day or two, just figuring out what our options are. Do we, is it a civil matter? Is it something that we can, support that Springfield pushes on or Bay County pushes on? I don't know the answer to that. And so it's weird being mayor and someone says, you should do something. You go, I don't know how that works. And so I'd like to know our possible paths. And so that's why I put it on the agenda to discuss.
Do we need to take action to do that? To give instruction to staff?
No, I do appreciate it being brought up, so it wouldn't be a surprise when the report comes back.
Oh, and let me preference too, if we move forward with this, I don't think it's like, we need it tomorrow. It's, hey, 90 days when you're bored, when Evan's bored, give him something to work on.
But obviously would be happy to help staff look at it. It involves the county because it is located physically within the county. Probably involves Springfield and maybe Callaway the same way it would involve the city. So I believe staff would reach out to those other jurisdictions for any thoughts that they have had on it. It would be a, kind of a review of what DEP regulations there are on it, and then also a review of what other, the mayor had given us information about other cities that have done something. Hey, look at that too.
I like this format of bringing it forward. We've had an issue with a lake that abuts St. Andrews in between Kings Point and 23rd Street, and it's in the county. So that I don't know what to do. I mean, I've been asked numerous times, like, hey, this is a nuisance. This guy. I'm like, literally have no control over it. So, if staff could spend some time figuring out how we provide better coordination, like between the different areas, because it does impact us too. But we also understand that Creighton's a good, corporate partner. Obviously, if it would not smell, that would be fantastic. I don't know if that's possible. Nobody's asked the question.
Nobody's asked the question.
So my grandfather retired from that paper mill.
It's his fault.
And it's his fault. It's his fault. And so my dad worked there as well, and they would tell stories, and I'm sure some of you that have been around for a while here remember the paper mill when it used to spew coffee grounds. Like, it wasn't coffee grounds, but it looked like coffee grounds.
Yeah.
And people would have a vehicle that was specifically a mill truck, and that's why they put the car wash outside of there. When I would go to Rutherford, sometimes I'd pop in there and get the truck washed off, and it's just water spraying. But the whole point behind that was to wash all the coffee grounds off until eventually somebody said enough, and then they put it on them to say, hey, you've got to stop spewing this out, right? And so to my mind, it's a very similar request of, hey, we're happy that you're here, we're happy that you're an employer here, but the smell is kind of making you a bad neighbor. And I think there's probably ways forward for that to be mediated before it gets into the air. I just don't know what that is.
Me neither.
But yeah, I support it. I support if there's a motion that needs to be made, or if staff can just take direction. I'm not sure what we're looking for here.
Mr. Mayor, I believe this would be outside of the normal course of business for the attorney's office. Should there be a budget discussion?
Not at this meeting. I think we'd like to do, just to thank you, an interim overall review, which will not take much time. And when I sketched out everything that could be done, I anticipate giving an initial reaction. And then based upon that, yes, we could have and it might logically lead to a special project.
This one for everybody.
Well, no, it's paid for, believe me, it's paid for in the lump sum. But, thank you.
So you don't need any board action to move forward?
And I'll reach out to the county leadership and Springfield leadership and see if they've heard similar complaints and comments from the community as well.
Sounds good.
I have direction.
Awesome.
And it's not to spend a whole lot of time.
Yeah,
just
please
give
don't bake the
overview.
cake completely.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Item 10A, Commissioners Report.
Table till March
Oh,
10th.
The,
City of, that one,
St. Andrews, 11A.
11A.
okay, on 11A, you have a letter. Actually, it could have been tabled because I was thinking it was connected to the next item, which has to do with improvements. But I did want to report, I received that. This is pursuant to a letter I wrote, I believe it was in December, to the commission that had to do with wrapping up things with CMP pursuant to the.
This is St. Andrews.
Are we on St. Andrews? I lost my agenda.
Here.
There you go.
We're on,
I've got my digital. So, no, sorry.
11A. Thank you.
He's got this in your binder as well.
I was working ahead. I apologize for that. Okay, 11A is a very extensive report, a portion of which deals with the cost-plus contract and the probable costs for upland reconstruction of St. Andrews Marina. I will defer to Jonathan and his staff as far as to go over the memo that has a revised estimate of probable costs for upland consideration. I will focus initially on my letter that is buried in this information, but it's a letter that talks about the cost plus for bulkhead repairs at St. Andrews. And I attached some excerpts of the ground lease that talks about that the parties agreed that the city would pay for the cost to repair the St. Andrews Marina bulkhead, and that the bulkhead would need to be repaired before the end of 2031. And at the time that this was done, there was a desire to start construction of the wet slips, but also be prepared to do whatever it took to shore up the bulkhead while the wet slips were being constructed. That was the stated goal. One approach could have been to remove all the boats and just stop for a couple of years or a year and a half, whatever it took to rebuild the bulkhead. That approach was not taken. Instead, what was taken was to hire SAMP, St. Andrews Marina Partners, and one of those partners is Gorman Construction, who is in the business of building wet slips. So the desire was to also have them have SAMP enter into a contract to actually build the bulkhead while it's also building the wet slip. So the task was, okay, well, what does this contract look like? Because we don't know exactly the timing, and this has to do with the date of the contract, other than we think the useful life is 2031, so it needs to be done before then. We also don't know the scope of the work. Now, the scope of the work would be driven by the permit that is obtained. But there was a chance that a permit wouldn't be needed because of the plan that was being talked about but wasn't finalized. So we didn't know the time, we didn't know the scope, and we didn't know the price. And in fact, at one time it was talked about that this would be done in phases, and so you wouldn't do the entire bulkhead at the same time. So in light of that, what legal instrument is available to lock in for the citizens and the city the best possible arrangement that would provide for a qualified contractor to build this thing, the bulkhead, while the wet slips are being built, potentially, while they're being built, and while the permit hasn't been obtained, what could be done? So an AIA cost-plus contract was agreed to by the parties, the form of it. And the form is attached as an exhibit to the to the lease agreement. And let me look at it. And in the cost plus contract, it's the form is one that's used nationwide. There's been a lot of commentaries, case law, things concerning it. And so when you have a situation when you don't know for good reasons what the cost is going to be, but you want to lock in the vendor or the person, the contractor that's going to build it, there's a provision for how to do that. And so there, under our cost plus contract in Articles 7, especially, 7 and 8 in particular, there is a discussion of the charges that, or the cost that would be reimbursed. For example, the term cost of the work shall mean costs necessarily incurred by the contractor in the proper performance of the work. So the work has to be related to performance of the contractor. And the cost shall be at rates not higher than the standard paid at the place of the project. Then there's a standard for labor cost. It's the actual wages or salary of the construction workers that are employed by the contractor. And there's a standard for contractors, supervisory and administrative personnel, the actual wages that are paid. Then also costs paid or incurred by the contractor as far as insurance, contributions, assessments, and benefits would be part of that. Then when it comes to subcontractor costs, there is a mechanism here, and also the cost of materials. There's a mechanism in the contract on how the contractor obtains quotes, makes it competitive on their end, and all of that information is supplied to the city, even rental charges and the cost of debris removal, and premiums for insurance and bonds. So there's a very detailed listing. And also the city this will be very intensive, labor intensive on the part of the city to monitor this, because there's a requirement to provide the city its books to show the cost, to provide the city with the the different quotes that are received, and then also finally there is a provision for its cost plus, but there is a different markup if the work is being done by a related party. So for example, if Gorman Construction, which it would be doing the work, it isn't marked up like other subcontractors would be marked up because they are a related party. And the markup, I believe, is in, and I just lost it, but it's in one of the sections as well. So the point of that, and in my letter, is just that there is a cost plus contract, and the amount still won't be known when we actually sign the cost plus, because it's a form. We'll know an estimate, but as we go through, because even though it's projected to be 18 months, we don't know for sure all the steel will be purchased at once. We don't know for sure of any of the and so we look back at the contract to make certain that it is the cost. So that's what the commission determined was a fair way to resolve this desire to build the wet slips while the bulkhead is also being built, without knowing all of the parameters that you typically would know when you enter into a construction contract. And I have other things pointed out there in my letter, but I think that gives you a good framework, at least, as far as what was in the mind of the commission at the time that this was entered into, and now is the time where construction could commence fairly soon on the bulkhead.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question. Mr. Zimmerman, could you tell us succinctly what the question is before us today?
Oh, today?
Yes.
Today, I think that this is a little sideline, and I made a long speech about it, but the main issue is that you're going to get a report on the cost. There is no action that I am requesting of today, and I don't believe there's any action that the city manager, but it's good to get a report because it will be some action soon. And as far as signing the actual cost-plus contract, but it is really a report because it's been a long time since we've talked about this. And then the main purpose, I think, is that we have received cost estimates and from SAMP, and that those estimates, Mr. Clint Murphy is here and Jonathan Hayes is here to talk about.
Question, why would we wait any longer if we know that the cost is going up every day? Why take no action today? If we're gonna sign a contract, that's the goal, right?
Yeah, the contract has been approved it was attached as an exhibit.
Right, it's in the lease agreement.
Right, but I believe that there needs to be a level of comfort before we actually sign the final cost-plus contract. So whether we need to hear probably from SAMP as far as whether this meeting or a meeting 2 weeks from now, it makes a difference as far as their timing. I believe they're to be done maybe in March with the 50 wet slips, and maybe able to take over operation in April or so. But that would be a good question for Sam.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I think in the past, it was talked about, this was up to 12.9 million. So, but again, the contract that was just the estimate at the time. But now, as we've moved forward with the project and the contract does call for that cost. And so that's why we've updated that. So I think I agree with Mr. Zimmerman that we just want to make sure that there's a level of maybe not necessarily comfort, but maybe just understanding from the board as we do move forward. So that there's no surprises further down, because the estimates are coming in higher now than originally when I think it's probably over 2 years ago when we first initiated this effort, just to provide some clarity.
You conveniently left out that we also pay for the overage. It's what the contract says.
Right.
It says 12.9. As a citizen, I want signed and them buying material as soon as possible, because that fixes my cost. And the longer we wait, this is about what's in the four corners of this contract, folks. It is on us, and the longer we wait, the more it's going to cost. And just something to think about.
Because we've had approximately 2.5 million increase in 2 years. And so with cost plus, it's just going up.
Yes, no, concrete's gone down the past couple of years. So I'd say overall, yeah, things probably have gone up. The CRA in that area can borrow $3.2 million per the city clerk's email about 6 months ago. I think we pull out things that are necessary right now, and we look at the pavilion and things like that we can do in a year. And we use the CRA as a mechanism to fund those things, all the beautification tools, the benches. I mean, go to Greenville, and Mayor Knox White says that every light pole bench has someone's name on it, because they try to get every dollar from the citizens of, like, you want to sponsor the bench? We'll put your grandma's name on it. You buy the bench. And they get super scrappy with how they spend their money, and they don't do it all at once. And I think we could pull some of these things out so we get closer to that 2.9. And we see what's important now versus what we need to make a decision on in a year.
Just to answer Commissioner Lucas's question, in my letter I say, upon a determination by the City Commission that the time to repair the bulkhead is during the construction of the wet slips, the city is reasonably satisfied with the design plans, permits, scope of work, and price submitted, and that the source of funding has been identified, you should be in a position to execute the contract that's attached as an exhibit. And this is part of that process.
So two things. One, the way that I operate with design build contracts, whatever it is, that when things go over, the cost plus doesn't go up. And so that means, yeah, sure, the cost have went up. That doesn't mean your profit margin gets to go up. That's how I operate. I know that's not how this contract's operated, but here's where I'm at. So to your point on the CRA, absolutely, CRA could borrow money, but that also means that every other project that we've got in the pipeline stops. And so that is a lot of conversation with citizens to go back and say, hey, you know what? We said this, now we're not doing this, and we're not doing this, and we're not doing this. So really, I would like for staff to go back and try to figure out what we can do for you guys to bring us something that's closer to where we were, whether that is in, sacrificing cost plus margin on top of that, or, the decision here may be just to wait. And I hate that. That's not what I want to see. But it's going to stir up a whole nother hornet's nest of stuff if we start canceling projects that are right now in the middle of construction. The things that would be affected, Truesdale, things at Oaks by the Bay, things at the parking lot that we purchased 2 years ago. I mean, it would be a staggering effect that would continue down the line. And you're right, there are trade-offs. And so, am I comfortable with, 15-something million and the escalations that happened? No, I'm not. But at the same time, I don't really know what to do from the standpoint other than do what predecessors have done and, kick the can down the field a little bit and see if we can't get more margin, finish up a few projects and not be affected. That's the other thing, or get into some kind of negotiation piece.
Yeah,
So-
and in all fairness, from my understanding, the 2.9 was not we didn't give them a design plan, there wasn't
Yeah,
engineering, it was
yeah.
kind of like a best case scenario, and best case scenario didn't happen for various reasons, and so that's why we're having the conversation.
And I would applaud that 12.9 without any drawing,
Yeah.
unit cost, we expanded their scope. I would applaud that rather than say that's bad.
Yeah.
And a 3-year period in construction that has gone up just monumentally, $2.5 million, and we expanded their scope, this ought to be a slam dunk, do the deal. And that's in your backyard, Commissioner. That's one less thing you got to check, and it gets done.
Yeah.
The fact that we're going to talk about slowing this down, I completely disagree with. And the city needs to have something that they're working towards the end. And it's money that contract that was done by the last commission, it is very explicit in there. My real estate dad taught me one thing very good. What's inside the four corners of the contract is what we work with. Outside of that, what you want, what you think, doesn't matter. Because that's what y'all agreed to back then, that's what we agreed to now. And so I believe that we ought to push forward as a city and complete a project. Let's get this project done because we're that close. $2 million and $15 million over 3 years, that's a lot of money, but it's not by today's standards.
To piggyback on Robbie's comment, you mentioned that there is a mechanism for us to be reimbursed through some maintenance agreement that's in this contract, like we could pull from maintenance dollars. You said that to me at one point in time. Like there's a sinking fund that we're putting things to. We could reimburse ourselves for this cost through that. Was that true?
If I said it, of course.
Okay, well, you did say it, so I
No,
just wanted to
it's-
reiterate that's
no,
what you said.
It is true, except there is no money until the city, until
Until we finish.
Until it's finished
Yeah.
and there's operation, and that is when we receive our share of gross revenue, it goes into this fund. But that's the money, and there is no money right now. But it is true in theory, but it's not in actuality as far as, it's not in reality because there's no money. But
the
yes,
cost back above what the revenue share was.
Correct.
I do want to draw attention to one, and not to throw another thing in the mix, but the bulkhead project now, we did move to the downtown marina. FEMA did give us some money for this bulkhead project, but it is sitting on the downtown marina right now.
$5 million?
$5 million. And that is essentially represents what is catastrophically broken with the marina right now. Obviously, it's at the end of its useful life, just like the downtown was. City went out and borrowed money to do the bulkhead project. That's how that one got done. And it was a lot cheaper, 4 years ago or 5 years ago when that one started than it is now. I'm open to solutions. I'm open even to looking at the CRA thing. My concern and what I'm throwing up a red flag on is I don't want to have, people advocate for projects for a very long period of time. And then to just go and in one meeting decide, hey, we're erasing all of those, this is what we're doing then. I need to at least have the time to have conversations and help people understand, hey, look, if we want to get the marina done now, this is what we have to do. you know, I at least need to know.
Why don't you open with completing the terms of the contract y'all agreed to? Y'all agreed to it. Why don't you open to following through with those terms?
Well, I think the costs have escalated so much, Robbie. I mean, I think that's the reality. If we would have executed 2 years ago, this would be a completely
Well,
different
yeah,
thing.
well,
So,
but we didn't. And
yeah.
the cost, let's look at it really good. Every contractor I talk to, they're like, dude, that's nothing. That's a no-brainer. In this price range with no plans, no nothing. I mean, I think we had our engineers, our staff, and Gorman came up with a price. So it's not like we had a hand in, and our people's and our engineers said, here's a price as well. Here's our price. And y'all said, okay. With plans, with all of that, we only moved this much by comparison. That's in your contract that y'all said it was okay. There is direction in the contract for us to move forward. It doesn't say stop, it doesn't say renegotiate, it doesn't say breach.
But we can delay is what we can do.
You can, but
Yeah.
honestly, that's probably also, it could be
It probably would
considered
escalate
breach
the
as well.
cost even
okay?
more, you know, I agree.
It does say specifically that if we don't pay, that's breach. If we don't fund the Marina Fund, it's in there, okay? I read the contracts, by the way. And so it's odd to me that we get to the non-revenue pieces on each marina. The other one's gone on non-revenue, and here we are on non-revenue again, which has already been voted on, and we're trying to stop again. Let's just move through the contract, follow the terms, and be done.
Yeah, I agree. The problem I have is how do we pay for it? Like, that's really what it boils
It
down
was
to.
tied to the fund. That vote was tied to the long-term debt
The
fund.
credit card company.
Yeah, right, but that's the vote.
That's not a long-term fund, that's a
Well,
short-term fund.
the hurricane fund, how about that?
So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. So, I like the idea of potentially using the sinking fund to help reimburse it. The kind of the more nerdy question that I have in regards to that is that if that sinking fund is set up primarily for monies to be used on top of the marina and cannot be used outside of the marina, then we have to be very careful on how we structure, how do we pay for this, because if we pay for this with funds that are not meant specifically for the marina, then are we going to be able to reimburse out of that sinking fund? And
You got it
Dan, I'm kind of
backwards.
looking at you on
You got
that
it
one.
backwards. We pay for it with the hurricane fund, and we're paying back from the marina fund to ourselves, is the way that they're trying to do that.
And my question is that kosher from an accounting perspective due to the legalities of the sinking fund only being able to be used on the sinking fund? or
Good
on the-
question,
on the-
because it's contractual, it says we can do that, but you're right, maybe that
Yes.
doesn't allow
So
that to come out of that.
There is a way forward. I'm just suggesting that as we consider things on how we fund this, that we have an empty sinking fund, but eventually there will be money in it. How do we structure something so that that money can be used to pay back what we're looking to do on these, on this, the bulkheads? That's all I'm suggesting, because again, all of this is going on to the $150 million loan. And eventually, when we dispense with that loan, this will have to roll over to long-term debt.
Yes, sir.
Some of it will, if not all of it. And so what does that look like, and how do we pay it back is really what I'm focused on.
All my real estate projects, whenever something comes in higher than the bid, I don't go, I'm gonna go get more money. I go, well, what do we have to cut back and decide later. And
Yeah,
so
I don't have a
that's-
problem with that either,
Yeah,
but-
so to me, it's what are the necessities versus what can we do in a year?
I think what you'll find, Alan, in this one is there's not really, I mean.
There's not much.
The pavilion, what is that, like
Pavilion.
80 grand? I mean, like, it's-
$546,000, that's the extent it's gonna
Yeah,
work,
so-
cut that back.
Yeah.
You
So,
know?
you know, there's not a whole
There's
lot
not.
that's there that's not related to steel, tiebacks, concrete, you know, and, you know, utilities. And so, you know, anyway. But hopefully you guys hear from me. I'm trying to be a problem-solving partner. Like, obviously, I want to see the project going. I'd love for us to just do the 15 and just move on with it. So, Robbie, yeah,
I'll second
thank you
your
so
motion to-
much.
I'll second your motion to move forward then. How about that?
However, I don't feel the same support across the board, and I don't think that's because they don't support the project. I think it's because we do have to think about what happens after we terminate the $150 million loan, and I recognize that reality. And so I want to try to figure out if there may be a path forward in a different way.
I want to point something out. We're concerned about messing up the $150 million loan over $2 million, but we already know we're using 12.9.
Yeah, we
Okay,
do.
$2 million is the problem here.
No, sir, it is, I have been concerned about the 12.9 from day one.
Oh, no. But my point is,
So,
if it was
now we're
just
adding
12.9, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We'd be voting.
We
okay?
committed to
So 12.9 is there, but we're concerned about adding $2 million. I'm sorry, let me put that on there, that's a problem. It's $12.9 million, folks, that's a lot of money.
Yeah,
Okay?
it is.
Why are we worried about 2? Okay, went over 3 years. 2 years.
Yes, sir.
Can I just make one point of clarification? Justin Gorman, 1944 Frankfurt Avenue. I know 15 million has been thrown around and 2 million and rough, those kind of numbers, and that was the whole full package, that's the pavilion, everything. So just one point of clarification that line item for line item from the original 12.9, that was smooth, huh?
It was.
I can't do it again.
That's pretty good.
You practice that?
Item for item, if you go back to the original scope of work, was 12.962 was what was provided to the city. Item for item, we're now at 14.565. I provide, and Clint and I have gone back and forth a lot over the past couple of weeks trying to get this thing where it was presentable to you guys. I'm not sure what all made it in front of you. But there are some other opportunities for savings, which was processing the concrete, which was roughly $70,000. There were DPO opportunities, which was roughly $226,000. I'm sure y'all are familiar with DPO. So that got us down to 14.268, which is a $1.3 million spread, which is roughly 9%. So I know it's been 2 million, 2.5, 15 million. So I just want to make that point of clarification that it's really once we get down to the nuts and bolts, it's 1.3 different spread on what's actually needed to replace the bulkhead.
Justin, if I can ask you a question. So in your experience, because you guys do this all the time, what I do fear is something similar to what we've encountered with Martin Theater. Is like we go in and then all of a sudden we get like
Bunch of change orders.
Oh, here's another change order. Here's that. How confident are you in this design and this that when you give and you guys say go, like we're going to be go?
So obviously there's some optics here that we don't want to get involved in. Like we don't want to be coming to back of you guys with a bunch of change orders because of our involvement in SAMP. So there were some things that we got ahead of. The initial design had a sheet pile wall for the tieback system, not just the face of the wall, but the tieback system was a sheet pile wall. There was discussion back at the beginning of this whole thing where it was contemplated that the existing tieback system was either cable or rods that went from one side of the bulkhead to the other side. There is no tieback system. The one side is just tied to the other. So as we went through that, it was determined that driving sheet piles would conflict with those existing tie rods. So what would happen if we did that is that we'd have to cut the existing tie rods, drive the sheet pile tieback system, which would then allow the existing wall to fail before we got the new wall in. So we went back, we redesigned it to driven concrete 18-inch precast piles. That allows us to drive the piles in between the existing tieback system. So where I'm going with this is that we've tried to think about everything that we possibly could ahead of time that could constitute, us having to come back up here and, get tomatoes thrown at us potentially. I don't want to come back up here. I want to get this done and never have to ask the city for one more red penny.
Are you saying there's potential for a change order to give money back into the contract? You don't have to answer.
Is there consensus to move forward with the original cost estimate that was provided and just those items, and then maybe we look to the CRA and additional funding sources for the other things that have been added in?
That's a $500,000 savings, that's it.
That's not much, but it's something.
It's something, but yes, sir.
Well, but I don't think, I think that's going back and saying, hey, your project may delay a year to complete this, or 2 years, rather than me going back and saying, hey, I don't know whenever it's gonna happen. I mean, I think that's way more palatable to not stirring up another issue to solve, if not. I mean, we've got one parking lot that's got just got dirt on it right now, and so I would hate to not fulfill the obligations that we've made.
Well, and it's not a big line item, but there is the curb stops, which are roughly $30,000, which the city already owns. So that's another not a lot, but $30,000 that could come off because the city already owns several hundred of them that were, I think,
We're
down
saving
downtown.
$500,000 right now. Is that what I hear?
So Commissioner Street, can you make the financial case for delaying that it would be a cost savings to delay, or that the city would somehow benefit for delaying?
Not from a cost perspective. I think the only thing it does for us is it provides us with a little more knowns as far as that $150 million line. But we could find ourselves in a spot where it's even more. And, you know, and it probably will be more 3 years from now. I mean, reality is, however, we would have a little bit more information. But, I mean, what we're talking about, what I just heard was the difference in cost versus what was originally proposed to us to what it is today is about a $1.3 million number, which is less than a 10% change from what it was. So it's basically about a 10% change over 2 years. That, to me, actually sounds reasonable. And now knowing that there's some other items that have been added in, granted, I think the community supports those items. I mean, they want to see the pavilion back, they want to see those things 100%. No point in having a big concrete thing right on the water with no way to enjoy it. And so, but I think that sounds to me a lot more reasonable than, you know, the number that was proposed, even though it's only $500,000.
Okay, so the CRA pays for it. Do they have to go out and get a loan for it, or do they have the money for it?
I don't know. That's
No,
what
I
we
think
need
that's
to
a whole
find
other
out.
discussion that we'll have in a
The
year.
reason I ask is, you're gonna kick that can down the road, well, then we figure out we're gonna have to pay for it. Now, that's tax dollars, either way, it's a trade-off. I'm trying to think forward, let's not.
I've got two members here that were supportive, or maybe one that was somewhat supportive. That we're supportive of doing this. What I'm trying to communicate right now is I'm in this to help problem solve, because I don't want to just push more debt onto us as a city. And so, you know, is it reasonable for the cost to have escalated 10% in 2 years? Yes, I think that's reasonable. There are amenities that the community is going to enjoy. Is it reasonable for the CRA to pay for those? Yes, I do think that too. And, you know, so, okay.
And those amenities don't have to be put in the current CRA budget, correct?
That's correct, because they could be done at the very end, and so it may not affect as much as what.
And we may find we want a bigger pavilion or smaller, but it gets us through a little bit of a gap of a type.
Yes,
It's just,
I
I
agree.
mean, it's symbolic, it's
concur.
hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's, you know, push the decision.
I do like the idea, Mayor, that you came up with of reaching out to community and saying, hey, you know, would your company like to sponsor, or would you like to sponsor, or would you like, you know, this person's estate to sponsor this bench or this you know, pavilion or what have you, and through donation to the city that, you know, that would then realize that thing for happening. So I'm really happy you're going to take that on. And
The Granger Pavilion, sounds good.
Can I offer some
Yes,
information
sir.
that might be
Please do.
helpful? Yeah, Clint Murphy, Director of Public Works. I'm also a resident of St. Andrews and an avid boater in the local community. So I think this marina is very important. But just to give you a feel for the cost, so in the contract that was agreed to back in April of 2024, the SAMP group was responsible to provide reasonable costs. So the question is, how did we determine that their cost was reasonable? I've spent the last 2 weeks taking a real close look at this. So I looked at a couple things. Number one, if you look at Exhibit B that was provided to my memo, SAMP actually went through and showed where they received competitive pricing on some of the key components of the work. And looking at that, and they of course picked the lowest price received on those quotes. The other thing I used to verify that was I looked at historic FDOT cost data from last year, 2025. The search was between January 1st and December 31st. And they did have a lot of projects that involved sheet pile wall, and their costs were in line with those historic costs from last year. And lastly, I think Mr. Hayes sent it out yesterday, but I didn't get this information until after my memo was done, but they actually did a turnkey quote to do all the bulkhead work by a subcontractor. And that contractor was Hal Jones out of Jacksonville, Florida. They're a very well-respected company. I worked in Jacksonville for 3 years and did several projects with them. And they provided a quote, and when you subtracted and compared apples to apples, for instance, they didn't include electrical work in their price. They actually came in above the Gorman price.
So I can stand before you and honestly recommend to you that this price is a very reasonable price for the scope of work that's included. Now, the other thing I'd like to point out, if you go down to the turn of the LDOC, you'll see that you can't even use it. It's falling in, it's dilapidated, it's unsafe. I'm not sure who came up with the 2031 estimate, but quite honestly, I think it's, to me, it's a safety concern, and the sooner we can get that repair started, the better.
Thank you, Clint.
Any questions?
Actually, I have one.
Yes.
You just said you were the Public Works Director, but I think for the benefit of the public and the commission, your 30 years of history that kind of effectuates your position in estimates and construction management. What have you done?
Oh, thanks, Jonathan. I would have sent out my resume. Actually, I do have quite a bit of marina experience throughout my career. I worked over in Dubai for 3 years, developing high-end luxury marinas in the Middle East and all around the Dubai area. So this is not foreign territory for me, but I have 40 plus years of heavy civil infrastructure experience, including marinas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Not uncharted waters.
So do I hear a consensus? I think there's a consensus to move forward on what items were in the original cost estimate and then look to the CRA for the things that were not.
Or just kick the.
Explore funding options.
Explore it.
Yeah,
Yes, they
totally.
could, we could, somebody could.
Yep.
Make it.
Okay.
And so really what we're talking about is the 14,565 that you just gave us approximately, plus 20%. So,
Does that include the 20%?
no. And that only goes up if we wait, is my point.
That's right.
You get flexibility of the decision later.
It goes
Well,
up.
there's no motion on the table, right?
There's
Do
no
we want to make a
motion.
motion? Does anyone make a motion?
I'm
You've been
giving-
seconding a
I've been
number
trying to
of
get Josh
things.
Smith one because I wanted to make it, I was
You've been
seconding it for you.
Seconding it's,
I'll motion to move forward with the original contract specifications, those line items, underneath the current terms of how we're financing it, with looking to the CRA for the items that we talked about today that can be deducted.
Expanded scope, how about?
The
let's
expanded
define it,
scope. I think
because
that's a better way
right,
to say it.
Justin, right?
Saying
It's all in
The-
there? Okay.
The expanded scope, looking to the CRA to fund the expanded scope.
And other methods.
and other methods, please throw.
And other methods.
All right.
CRA and other methods.
Yeah, that could be the
I'll
sinking
second
fund,
that.
that could be anything.
Did you want to specify the St. Andrews CRA?
Yeah, I think we have to.
Yeah, it has to be spent.
Yes.
Downtown CRA.
Yeah.
Why not? St. Andrews CRA. Yes, yes.
Do
Thank
we have
you.
a second on that?
I did, yes, sir.
And any discussion?
I think we already discussed it.
Okay, I was giving you the opportunity to say it again. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Mayor,
Yes,
just
and then I'll take a break.
quick clarification, or I can do it after we come back, but it'll take just a minute. Okay, so I believe by the action today, and this is just to make sure that staff's on the same path, that this commission, looking back at my letter, you've determined that the time to repair the bulkhead is during construction of the wet slips. And so we're proceeding ahead with the cost-plus contract. And that the city is satisfied with the design plans. And we've talked, I know this has been a subject of talk for a long time. Permits, I don't believe a permit is necessary because of the way they're designing it. Then scope of work and price. Now, on scope of work, I know that the city is going to look at the scope and see if there's anything that doesn't have to be done, and that might potentially be clarified. As for price, it's still an estimate because the cost is the cost, and that is all of that stuff in the cost plus contract. Most of the language is how the city goes about verifying the cost, and so the city will probably end up with a construction manager / engineer that will help us as we go through that. We actually have the rights to look at the books as far as the actual labor cost and things like that.
Does that cost more?
It does.
It does, but
Or we can trust our
that's
partner.
in the cost plus
That's well
contract.
able to
Yeah, it's in the cost plus contract, but that's, but if that's what this, I heard that was what this motion is, then I believe would be able to sign the contract, and knowing that we have a cost estimate and that we're going to, use all of the mechanisms in our contract that we approve for a cost plus contract to ensure that it comes in within that.
So we're gonna sign a contract, it's cost plus. The yay-boo about cost is, it goes up and it goes down. They give us an invoice, that's the cost of it. But to say it's an estimate, yes, it is, but that's the estimate we start with, based on change orders or not. That contract moves forward, and do we pay 20% on any change order or no? That was the question I do have. And if not, the number, they give us an invoice, we should accept that, correct? There's not a lot of investigation.
Okay, when I use the word estimate, I am talking about when you add up all of these costs, you get
Yes, sir.
the number. And not all of those numbers in that cost are, they don't have invoices for all of it, because they're not building the whole project tomorrow. They're building it over the next year and a half. So but you're right, once there is an invoice, they have to go through the terms of the contract and show how they got the subcontractor hired or whatever, or the materials purchased. And then when the invoice is submitted, then the city looks at that is the correct price and that quantity was delivered, or that work is being done. So this is a very heavy, labor intensive on the part of the city to actually implement this cost plus contract. But that's what was agreed to a long time ago under the circumstances. So, so I believe that, we have I believe that's what the motion was. I just wanted to reiterate that, and they'll be excited about seeing it happen.
Anything else? Let's do a 10-minute recess. Welcome back. Welcome back. I know.
Yeah.
That's what dyslexia does.
That probably wouldn't be a good
No,
thing.
no.
You got candies? Did you give
I think I found mine.
All right,
Welcome back.
Are we ready? Item
Yeah,
item 12A is consideration to approve the membership and rental fee schedule for the Martin Luther King Jr. Recreation Center. Attached for the commission's consideration is the revised proposed fee schedule, which we will put up on the screen momentarily, for the MLK Jr. Rec Center, membership and rental fees. This new center does include a fitness center, gymnasium, STEM lab, teaching kitchen, arts and crafts studio, multipurpose rooms, and outdoor recreation areas. It was previously submitted to the commission on December 16th of last year, and the commission approved allowing free access to all areas of the MLK Jr. Rec Center through the end of February of 2026, and instructed staff to further engage the community for feedback on the recommended fees. A town hall was held on January 7th of this year with approximately 75 community members in attendance. And then following that town hall, the NAACP organized additional community meetings for further input. A group represented by various members of the community met with city leadership to present their recommendations. And so you'll see those changes that we have put on here that are now up on the screen are in red for both the public and the commission to see. Some great feedback that we got from the community. Changes are adding an additional discount for those that might be in college, so that's why you see age 18 to 21 getting $50 instead of the $100, and then 18 to 21 who is not a city resident would still get a discount down to $100 instead of the $200. Military, disabled, or 60 plus with relevant ID would be allowed $75 a year. We did create the Golden Senior Membership, 70 plus. That's free, but again, only to Panama City or Bay County residents. And then I think if you go to the next page, please, there is some additional feedback. And again, I just want to remind the commission, we talked about doing this for about 6 months, and then during that time, getting additional feedback and kind of tracking how we're doing and to that end. So the special event stuff, we did make some modifications to that based on feedback. We did indicate that the deposit is refundable, and then we did agree to reduce the setup fee depending on what parts of the multipurpose room might be used for the community room to that end. So we did take one thing that, and I don't remember which one of the folks that came up during the time and spoke, but the sliding scale concept was presented, but honestly, I don't feel comfortable or think it's appropriate for the staff at the MLK Rec Center to be looking at proofs of income and earnings history and all of that. We wanted to try to keep it as simple as possible. And again, really our PCR director, Keith Myrle and Javian Elliott, they were the ones that were kind of point on this with Mr. Jones. And so they've had additional conversations that really effectuated the recommendation that is revised and before you here today, and he'd be happy to answer any questions as well, depending on how far down in the weeds y'all would like to get.
Surely there's got to be somebody in the clerk's office that we can trust to look at numbers and financials of somebody that's already on staff if we were to use sliding scale.
Well, there's been a...
Well, we're going to do the scholarship, so I mean,
yeah.
That goes without being said. That was already that's already done.
Scholarship.
For memberships. So we remember the Panama City Community Fund set that up, and it's one of the dedicated line items now going into perpetuity for determining that. And so you'll be able to, and they're working on what that looks like, but it'll be I think a fairly simple application process, and then we'll utilize those funds. So I sorry to interrupt, Commissioner Granger.
I would encourage us to use some type of verification that somebody already has. And the only reason why is when you get into income verification, that's a whole nother thing. But there's lots of things that you go through for income verification. So I don't know what that answer should be.
The Boys and Girls Club uses it, and they have no problem admitting people in that have sliding scale. So what are we trying to reinvent the wheel? I mean, to me, let's not complicate it. It's being used somewhere in town. Can we model that? Is that possible?
Well, actually, the city also, in the Housing and Community Services, has to income verify for some of its HUD programs. So there is, it is being done by city staff. And I would also contend that for the scholarship, there has to be some sort of verification involved with that as well. And then in speaking with Mr. Merrill, I asked if in his past, had he been over a department that had this kind of an activity go on, and he said, yes, he has. So, there's that possibility. And the argument brought to by the community is the all or nothing, $0 or $100. And yes, the scholarship has been approved. We're waiting the steps and procedures from legal so that can be ready to go as well.
Will that mean enterprise fund? We don't need to mix all this in the general fund?
No, this is, I'm sorry, this is a separate not-for-profit agency that the city operates.
Are you asking about fees in general?
Right, let's say that I'm going to have a league, that's income, fees coming in from this. Where are all these fees going, to the general fund or
Yes.
to MLK?
General fund.
Okay, let's make that be a special fund for MLK.
Or-
That way,
or-
all the money that comes for spending.
I understand, I think I understand what you're getting at, and I support it. I think an easier method for the clerk in her office would be to mark that money that comes in to be used for MLK.
Yeah, it's just
rather
an
than
account,
creating
it would just be an account, not
Yeah.
a fund. But yeah, we
Yes,
can,
we
we
get
can
there.
definitely.
Until I understand how to budget, government budgeting better, it makes me feel better to know it's outside of general fund.
Yeah, but
No, it's still in the general fund.
Because for the rest of my life, I don't know.
Because the MLK Rec Center is in the general fund, so the revenue will go into the general
The
fund, but
problem
it will
is when
be,
you create another fund, it creates a lot more administrative stuff around that, and that is just not, the juice is not worth the squeeze on, we didn't do it for the fire assessment, like, that's $6 million.
And that bothers me too.
It does, right?
Yeah,
It
it
bothers
does.
a lot of folks, but it.
Another way of
it's,
thinking about it is if in your own personal finances, you set up separate bank accounts for every
Right.
special project
Yeah.
that you do, or every vacation, for instance.
And I do it for different, when I do my, build
Properties.
houses and
Yeah.
stuff, each one has its own, but that's business, that's separate from my personal stuff.
I think overall though, and I made this point, was if any facility has a certain dollar amount that's associated with an expense, until that facility brings in more money than the expense, then it's kind of a moot point anyway. Because if there's more money coming out of the general fund than is going in the general fund from whatever that thing is, or any fund for that matter, then it doesn't really matter if you mark it or not, because does that make sense?
yeah, let me
That's
try to
true.
explain. A fund has to be self-balancing, right?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
if you opened up a new fund for the MLK Rec Center, the revenues are never going to equal the expenses. Then you're going to have to show how much the general fund is paying to support the MLK Rec Center. If that's important for you to know that number,
Well,
then,
but we have a savings account, remember? It's 4 pages long, savings account. So we should be able to cover the expenses of the MLK Center based on what we passed. And we're not borrowing from anywhere. We're covering those expenses. The fees that are coming in are not to pay those salaries and things like that. Where does that money go?
That's exactly
yeah,
what it's
that's
for
what,
though, right?
that's what it pays for.
Wait a minute, before we ever got
What
to
do you
the
think
fee
it's
structure, we had a conversation. It was a tough meeting about creating the savings account, and we were gonna find money on how to pay the employees. Y'all not remember that meeting? And it had nothing to do with the fees. Now, I'm not talking about these fees, I'm talking about, the fees come in from the sporting events and clubs and all that. Where is
That's
that money?
programming.
It
Like,
all goes
that's-
in the
Yeah,
general
parks,
fund.
That-
parks, culture, and recreation.
Okay,
And
That,
money's
it pays to
fungible.
support that.
okay. Did we factor that in? We had no numbers. When we factored that in to operate MLK, we went from one budgeted employee to 19 or something now. How did that work?
It sounds like you're asking, when we came up with the staffing requirements, did we factor, and we had those expenses, did we factor in possible revenue from membership?
10-4. And I thought the conversation was not following that. It was, we have the money, we're gonna find it somewhere in here, in our budget, and we're going to pay for that.
My understanding was I have not seen a projection, there was no projection that I've seen of like, we gotta find a fee structure to get to X number. It was
Right.
just a fee structure to supplement the cost of running that amazing facility. And so I think as we, in the next 6 months, we're gonna be reviewing what's come in, what's its cost, and we're super early. If this was a business, we would have done, if this was a business, we'd have done all the projections before you built the thing.
Right.
But, this doesn't operate like a business. There's things that cost us money that we'll never actually fully cover. And so, a lot of great conversation with Mr. Dossi and Mr. Walker this weekend over the fees. The sliding scale is very interesting. And I like the idea of us not having to do it. I love the idea that potentially it could be a volunteer, once a month, the volunteers come in and they process those.
I like that.
The sliding scale,
Like
where
a
they're involved in
committee
it.
of something that just
I love the
reviews it.
more we engage the community. We talked about even having Scoop and a few people be a mentor program there. And so the more we get them involved and people that want to help, I think that's great.
Yeah, and what I would say is what you'll find, and we experience this in housing, is some people don't have their most recent taxes. Sometimes people don't.
Sure.
So if you set up a committee that's responsible of, like, you will administrate these scholarship funds, that seems like a very easy process
Yeah.
to me that could accomplish what's being accomplished, what needs to be accomplished.
And let's make that board be of people that
Or
are
for sure.
inside the building.
100%, 100%. And to add, there was even discussion about concern of, we might get to 6 months of certain event types, because there's a difference in a fundraiser that has, people hanging out and drinks and food versus a true community event, which is everyone sitting in chairs and a presentation. And there are times that the community need to gather and there's no one to cover a cost. Versus a ticketed event where there's cost being. So we're gonna continue to work through these, and what's so strange about this job is we're disconnected from the day to day, and we set policy, and I'm always the bubble it up guy, and so I want to know in situations when an event was wanted to be hosted but didn't actually get hosted because of cost. When did someone show up that simply said, I literally can't afford this, and the scholarships didn't apply? I want to solve for those things. So I understand when our policies are failing the public. So I'm fine with moving forward, whatever Janice wants to do. I love all these ideas, and this is going to be iterative of how we maintain the facility and the fee structure.
The only one thing I would add is, I know that there's different prices for Panama City residents versus county residents or other municipalities. Out of all the county, there's only one MLK Junior Rec Center. And so if another city wants to partner in some way to do that and receive the same benefits as a resident.
Yeah, I love that.
I would love for us to have a process in order for them to do it. Because, the reality is not everybody's gonna go build an MLK Rec Center, and I don't think they should. And if they're willing to contribute in the programming that's happening there, their citizens should enjoy the benefits of that.
Agreed.
Can we say that we're just
That
open to
Commissioner
that?
Street that came up at one of the meetings, that we allow a rate for Panama City, and then for anyone else in the county, a special rate, and then for anybody else in the world, a special rate. And I asked then if they'd be willing to go to the county commission and ask to support the MLK Junior Rec Center. And so that recommendation didn't come forward, but I think that there is an appetite for doing something like that. So.
Go back to the first one, please, Donald.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with what staff has presented. I know they've worked quite a bit on this, and they've put a lot of time and effort into this with input from the community. I think this is one of those things where we probably need to move forward with this and then adjust as time moves on.
With sliding scale or no?
I don't want to have, personally, I don't want to create policy where we have one of the PCR employees trying to determine whether or not the person in front of them should receive some sort of benefit or not. I like the idea of pushing that to a board, volunteer board, or, I
And if
like
they wanna
all
use
those
the sliding
ideas.
scale, they could.
So I
But
think
that'd be
what,
part of the-
yeah,
of the
I
motion.
think what we then do is direct the city manager to work that out.
Yeah.
But if we don't approve it, then it doesn't get worked out.
I just don't want it to be on this. I would say for additional benefits or something like that. And this is not gonna be posted in the building. Like, this is just meant for us.
Yeah,
Kind of
we've
understand
approved
that.
the scholarship, and it's not on this.
Yeah.
And so I hear what you're saying, that this sliding scale, we can approve it and then direct staff how to implement it and roll it out.
Yeah, that's fine. I just, I'm looking at it from a perspective of when I had a bunch of employees and I had to create standard of operating procedures for these employees, you want to keep them as simple as possible, so that way you don't get into, decision-making where somebody's just like, you're not paying me to make decisions, you're paying me to do these things, and it puts them in a tough spot too, so.
I would say that we could pass this and then say we would love a presentation if there's a willingness to have a board that approves the sliding scale, that the group can form and present how they would do it to us, and we could be discussing that in 2 weeks or 30 days, and so I think
Then you're going to talk about amending the whole thing again.
No.
Start with something as
Yeah.
the sliding scale and put that in, bring it into this document, but you do that with the motion today. It's not gonna happen, you're not gonna know the sliding scale, you're not gonna how it operates. You're just gonna know that it's part of this and it shows up as part of the operation.
Okay, so
As opposed to coming back.
we could pass it today and say the sliding scale will not be done by our staff, but by an advisory board if they stand themselves up and give us a frequency of how often they would meet.
Yeah, I think that should be two separate motions.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess my question would be more even to Nevin and Jan. I mean, I don't know how you give non-staff or non-elected officials authority over fees that are to be collected. So that would kind of just be something I would want to ask on the front end. For example, anything that is used for the scholarship for the purposes out of the PCCF, that's going to come back to y'all in a quarterly report as to the cash flow out for that of the nonprofit. And I believe y'all vote to approve and accept that. So I do think there needs to be.
There'll be criteria.
There'll be some
They will have
criteria and
some
everything like
There will
that.
be subjective.
I would love
Yes,
for us
sir.
to bring
Mr.
Mr.
Keith,
Myrtle up.
come on
He's got
up.
a lot of history in this.
Come on down.
We were trying to keep it as simple as possible.
Hi, Keith Myrle, Director of PCR. Sorry.
I was just going to ask if you would share how this has been done under your leadership.
In other jurisdictions that I've worked, it's a wide range of areas similar to what the ask is with the sliding scale. We've used poverty levels. We've used simple as if you're on free and reduced lunch, then you're automatically qualified. So there are different levels that we can do. The sliding scale is one, as well as some of these other measures.
Yeah, see, that's exactly what I was looking for, something that's simple, that doesn't require staff to go verify income or things like that. So, free reduced lunch, whatever it is from that standpoint, and I'm open to it.
But sliding scale gets you a number. Free and reduced lunch puts a set rate, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so are you comfortable with your employees doing this?
If it was a designated employee, maybe down at the office in City Hall as opposed at the rec center, but potentially if it was a designated employee, that would look at that.
More staff.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say that because we do have employees that, I have a couple of admin assistants that could potentially fill that role.
And it can be controlled. Doesn't have to be just 24, well, not 24/7, because City Hall isn't open 24/7. It could be designated hours and days.
It could be. And you could take the application at MLK, but then process it by that one individual.
I don't have a problem with the sliding scale issue. It's just more of functionally, how does that work? And if somebody just steps in the doors of the MLK Rec Center and you have your reception person there, that, that's really where I don't think that should be hashed out is the point, because now we're adding a lot more to their plate.
What would be the easiest way for us to frame the text that included it, that gave Keith the option to give us some ideas or how to bring it to us, that open flexibility?
That we're asking for a sliding scale fee for staff to determine it with the least amount of interaction by the majority of the staff on personal information. I think we trust the professional that we've hired to hear what we've said here at the dais today and as we make the policy, and let them make the management decisions about how to implement it.
Yeah, I'll support that. I just would like it to be two separate things so that staff understands that it's two separate things and give them time to work through that.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Were there
Yes,
any
sir.
other questions? So I want to say thank you to the community, to everyone who has come forward, who has voiced their concerns as we've moved toward this decision today. Want to thank the staff under the leadership of Mr. Hayes for what you've done in listening to the community and working with the community. I have one suggestion to make before I move, or included in the move, I guess. It says visitors will not be charged to watch their children play, and I would say in a city-sponsored recreation basketball game, practice, or open gym program. And the reason I suggest that is I don't want someone to interpret that if a tournament is going on and their child is playing, that they get to come in free, if everybody else is paying, okay? Other than that, I move that we approve the recommendation coming from our staff with community input, and adding that staff add a sliding fee scale under the parameters that we've discussed here today.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I really wish there were two different motions.
What would that do?
It allows the staff the time, it allows us to continue to move forward with this, and allows the staff the time to work on that and get that sorted out. Because they're likely going to have to come back to us and say, hey, this is what we want to do. What do y'all think? And it causes this further delay.
Well, do we have to approve that? I mean,
Yeah.
no, we don't.
That's management, that's not policy.
That's not us.
Y'all do have to approve the fees, though.
Yes, which is what I've just made a motion to do.
We approve the fees.
And we have to approve the budget to absorb whatever costs are involved in that. So I'm comfortable with this from the standpoint of, regardless, we're gonna have to set a budget number to it. So,
Any other discussion?
I do like the committee idea. I'd just like to reiterate that.
Yeah, I think
same.
everything's a test, and we see how much work it is for the staff, and we can iterate on everything. So, any other discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 12B is consideration to approve Budget Amendment Resolution 2026-0210.2 to utilize $116,382.00 in equipment use reimbursement funds associated with the Panama City Police Department's deployments in response to Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton for the purchase of a mobile command trailer for the Panama City Police Department. Relevant background information is enclosed in your packet. Staff recommendation to the Chief of Police is that the Commission approve this request. Mr. Mayor?
Motion to approve.
Wow. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Oh, now it gets finally.
12D, I think. 12D?
No, Mr. Zimmerman's about to read something
Yes.
for 12A.
I have a resolution. I don't see it.
12A?
12A. You see a is there a resolution?
Did you want me to read it?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
12B, sorry.
Or 12B, okay.
12B.
There we go, sorry.
Got it.
Resolution number 2026-0210.2, a resolution providing for the amendment of the approved fiscal year 25-26 budget to accept and expend funds received from the employment of the police department during hurricanes Helene and Milton.
12C was moved to the end, so item 12D is consideration of approval to award bid PC 26-015 and contract for a CDBG-DR project area known as Area 02 in the downtown area of Panama City in the amount of $2,027,392.01 with a 5% contingency to total $2,128,761.61 to Royal American Construction Company. This project involves the replacement of approximately 2,845 linear feet of water line, 2,041 feet of sewer line, and 641 linear feet of sewer lining, and then 475 linear feet of stormwater lines. This project is again located in downtown Panama City and involves work along Harmon Avenue, McKenzie Avenue, East 3rd Court, East 4th Street, East 5th Street, McKenzie Alley, McQuaid Court, and Justice Way. This project has an expected duration of 300 days. We did have a competitive invitation to bid advertised by the city to secure competitive bids for this bid PC 26-015. We received bids from Mainline Construction, ECSC LLC, Gulf Coast Utility Contractors, American Sand and Asphalt Paving, CBC Construction, 850 Construction, CW Roberts Contracting, and Royal American Construction Company, with Royal American Construction being the lowest and responsive bidder, and the proposed amount of $2,027,392.01. Staff recommendation through the Director of Public Works is that the Commission approve this request. Mr. Mayor?
Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion to approve. Do you have a second? Second. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Brian?
Yes, sir.
The item that I had, which I'm not requesting any action on, but I just did want to briefly mention, it's a letter where I submitted the invoice that had been submitted from City Marina Partners LLC.
Oh, no, my apologies, Mr. Zimmerman. I thought there was a resolution that needed to be added for that, and they're just not for the prior thing. We actually, the St. Andrews Soccer Club is, I think, ahead of the...
Got it.
Is ahead of the we're going to end with the downtown marina conversation today. I believe that was the modification that was made. I apologize. I thought there was a budget resolution for the CDBG DR project downtown. There's not. So we are now moving into, and I'm not really sure what item it is, the way everything's shuffled around, Madam Clerk, if you could clarify, but it is the St. Andrews Soccer Club request of use.
It should be 12D.
Did you want to do projects and efforts first?
Yeah, we can just do that. I guess that's...
That would be easier for us.
Yeah, that's really no action. That's just something that's information. But I did, I've indicated that, at one of the last meetings, at the first meeting of every month, we're going to provide some of this information. And I just realized, kind of quoting, one of the bosses that I had in my years in DC, that if you're not keeping score, it's hard to know you're winning. And so this was just a point to really show the public and the commission everything that our staff does every month here. In fact, I know that our team last night over near 17th in Hickory, in that area, we had a communications contractor bore through a water main, and the guys were out till 3 a.m. To get that back online with an emergency part shipped in from Montgomery. So, and then I know there was comments made about, we ignore water leaks, yet if you look, we repaired 350 water leaks even through the month of December. So our team works 7 days a week to address the many issues. And so these are just a report we're going to show. And in addition, if there is a specific project that the commission would like to get an update on, please share with us that in advance of, of the 2 weeks of that first meeting every month. And we will dedicate kind of the last item under the city manager section to provide this information, but also provide updates, say like on, the water meter replacements, or, a design of a particular major project in your ward where you would like to be able to have a conversation publicly about that with some of your colleagues, which, you're not allowed to do in private. So that's the purpose of this. And I've already received, since this was made public last week, I've already received comments from a couple of you how much you appreciate this information and look forward to seeing it on a regular basis as part of our mission. So,
Mr. Mayor, I would like to add my commendations to others that have been offered privately. This is the kind of metrics that helps us, not only as the commissioners and the mayor, but the citizens, to understand the vastness of the work that is going on in our community. I would ask that we add a number of employees in light of our discussion at the virtual workshop. The area going forward, as we look at the 26-27 fiscal budget, where we're going to find the funds to recover our reserve, will be in looking at personnel. And so I think having that reflected in each of these areas of personnel, particularly who are funded through the general funds.
Nope, we'll break it down by both fund and by department.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. All right, if there's no other questions, then that would move us into the item that was added regarding the St. Andrews Soccer Club's request of use of Oak Grove Field at Robert Mary Kane Park in central Panama City. As you all are aware, this came up at the town hall on Saturday morning, and y'all requested that it be added here. Given some additional information that we have obtained, I did circulate yesterday a memo from Mr. Myrle, just kind of recapping everything that has transpired over the last 5 or 6 weeks regarding this effort, specifically in his time since joining the city. And so you do have the request here that was put here. Again, in brief summary, we do desire to have Frank Nelson Park kind of become the soccer capital of Panama City, but Mr. Myrle and his team need a little bit more time to get that field where it needs to be. He's hoping to have it by the fall, and that's a very high possibility, but it will definitely be ready for next spring. So they will focus on those efforts, but the field maintenance of that level is not really something that you can necessarily rush or force along. We did have him meet and walk the field with the representatives from the St. Andrews Soccer Club, and we did, in working with Commissioner Lucas and myself and representatives from the community, signed them up for some practice, which was February 3rd, 5th, 10th, and 12th. One of those days they weren't able to use because of rain, but there is an ask now for the spring season, which would start February 17th and run through May 14th of this year. We do have fees that were available, and I believe that Mr. Myrle has both an application for the practices and for the league itself, or the season rather, which again would be February 17th through May 14th. And we have conditions, or we have fees in place really to effectuate the use of that field absent from commission action. But they are asking for a reduction of those fees in consideration of that. So I don't know, Mr. Myrle, if there's anything you wanted to add to that. I know you've been much more involved in this than I have, sir.
Yes, sir. To the commission, the ask is for Tuesdays, Thursdays from 5 to 8 for those practice dates. Those would be the practice nights that they're asking for use of on the application.
And that would include the season as well, the Tuesday
Correct.
and Thursday, 5 to 8.
Tuesday, Thursday, 5 to 8 through the middle of May.
And are they renting the field, or is that where they're asking for the relief in the money? Are they renting the field for those?
Yes, I think that's what the ask
And they're
is
asking
today.
for that to be abated?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, it's $25 an hour for the use of that field.
If it remains with staff, we have no choice but to collect those fees. Only the commission can waive any fees like that,
So is that a reduced rate of $25?
That's a field rental rate. There is technically a club rate, which is $30 an hour, so this would be 25 is what we charge them for the last 2 weeks.
So technically, the soccer club is a club, and the $25 is already a discounted rate, is what I'm getting at.
If one was to define them as a club, yes, that is correct, yes.
Okay. So I think the question before us, gentlemen, is whether the soccer club, in its the way it's formally organized, should be given further reduction of fees. There's a lot that's been talked about, and the issue before us today is do we further reduce the fees for a club that operates as a travel club and not as a community-based organization? And my contention is no, we do not. But that's why we're here, to hear from everyone else.
So I have a question.
Yes.
You've walked Nelson Field?
Yes, sir.
You're gonna dig it all up, churn it up?
Long term, that would be the solution. Short term, we could do some basically light grading of the spots that are low and add some fill and do some overseeding, but long term, the solution would be to resod it. Yes, sir.
So if we're gonna turn this into a soccer field, are we gonna run into this problem again? Somebody wants to use it for football, or somebody wants to use it for, now, I get, this is what's come out of this is we have 0 dedicated soccer field in this town. So if we're gonna do that, we all have to commit that this is not gonna be used as any, because he's gonna put a lot of time in it, and that field has to be flat. Is that gonna be a problem? Because it's in somebody else's ward, and they're gonna be getting pushed on, but at the same time, we need it.
I mean, I thought we already made that decision.
Well,
So that's, we
okay.
named it after a soccer group. I mean, I thought that was already.
Cool.
Now, I'm not saying if somebody said nobody else could play on all of the fields, if that wouldn't be an issue, but I think having a dedicated
Right.
field is absolutely
Right.
reasonable.
All right, so have you established a timeline on the short-term fix versus the long-term fix?
To Mr. Hayes' point, it would be spring for the short term, fall for the longer term.
Spring has a lot of months in it.
I understand.
Okay.
Yes. No, fall, this coming up fall for the short term, but spring 2027 for the long term.
Okay.
I would, to Janice's point, I appreciate this, the Hill group brought this, as long as we're applying it uniformly. And so if that means from this point forward that any 501c7 will be charged, whatever is being charged here, I'm perfectly comfortable with that. I don't know who that else affects. I don't.
I don't either.
So,
So I have a question. Are they a 501c3 or C7? Should that matter? The question I also have is, are we waiving fees for any other nonprofit regardless of 3 or 7?
Since my coming to the city, there are other groups that use facilities at no charge. I'm still kind of investigating what that is and what the history of that is, and when that may have ended and when it had stopped. So there are those situations that there are some organizations that aren't being charged for field use. But if you go back to the definition of some of these teams, if they're community-based versus a club team versus a community program, that could potentially weigh in as to why some organizations may or may not be charged.
Yeah, I'd rather us to be standardized as well.
Understand.
I support that. I mean, if I don't want to get into whether or not a nonprofit benefits a certain percentage to the city or doesn't. I would rather have a standard, a policy by which all nonprofits are treated, whether they have 0 or whether they pay full price or a percentage. That's where I would like to be.
And I can agree with you, Commissioner Granger, on a standard, and making the delineation between a travel club and that pays its coaches and a community-based organization that does not pay its coaches, I think is a distinction that we need to make and can set a policy standard moving forward that we address that.
Yeah, I always apply everything to the Glenwood Rattlers. We travel, but
How
we don't
much
have.
do you get paid as a coach for the
0, it costs me money. I think that the paid staff is a great way to do it. I'd be interested in how other cities do it. Even if you checked bank accounts, I mean, we raised $30,000 for new helmets. So if you looked at our bank statement right now, you'd say, ooh, they got lots of money. And we really don't. And so there are ways to get around the organization paying their staff. A parent pays if they form another nonprofit. So I'm just interested in how other places do it. It always is heartbreaking. The idea that a child can't get into a park is heartbreaking. The idea that they can't participate is heartbreaking. The idea that a nonprofit that here's the help can't operate. This is a tough job. And so I'd love to see us work with this club and find them a better home and all the things we're discussing now. I totally agree.
Yes, this is a temporary solution.
Temporary solution.
For this spring.
For this spring.
For the spring.
I don't know.
But they're going to Nelson Park, for sure. Is that's the, yeah.
When the conditions improve to the point where they can get out there and play safely.
Has there been any conversation about they could, when you go get a Habitat for Humanity home, you put 500 hours in, okay? Has there been any conversation about some, earning, or bringing that fee down by helping over there, by helping at the park, at the new park?
They tried that in their initial proposal.
Okay, didn't work.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
The question was asked, though, and I don't know it, I'm not a tax attorney or CPA, but I don't know, Ms. Smith, what is the difference between a C3 and a C7? Is there really a, I mean,
I have
we
no
all just got
idea.
given this
I'm not a
morning.
tax attorney either.
Okay.
our tax
They're
accountant.
both considered nonprofits, just like how Destination Panama City is a 501c6. It's a quasi-governmental nonprofit. So there's different categories of nonprofits, and if we want to regulate that, I think that's fair. I'd just like to see it uniformly applied across the board so that we don't have one feeling that they're not benefiting from what somebody else, and I think up until this point, there really hasn't been a standard for what I'm hearing from Keith.
That's the way I understand it, at least for the last couple of years.
So, Mr. Manager, the other part of the ask was for them to be able to do organized play in a time called open play. And as we're making a distinction and a standard going forward, what position does that put us in as a city to have organized play going on in a non-permitted way?
In a non,
So
so
if they have Tuesdays and Thursdays, but they want to coordinate open play for their team, open to the community, say on a Monday or
on a
Wednesday.
Monday, then anybody would be able to come on the field and join. And that, I mean, that's what's been communicated to me on the Mondays. I think originally we were talking about maybe even having 4 days of stuff when this very first started, even before you joined the city. And now we're down to just the 2 days specifically for this spring for both the practices and then the games. But on Monday, I take them at their word that would be open play, would be exactly that. It would be open play.
So what does that do as a standard where any organization in the city can go and advertise, we're going to do open play without going through our permitting process?
Well, I think they're going through the process for that. That's my,
So I'll give you an example. Go by Daffin Park, even in, there'll be one coach with 4 kids that are having an unofficial practice where they're just
Right.
playing catch and stuff. And we haven't had the situation where people come out and they try to like force themselves in the field. So I don't know how to deal with that either. It's, what is a gathering of people with a coach? Is it unofficial? Is it just playing catch? How do we regulate that? I don't know how to do that.
We implemented, I'll give you some feedback. We implemented back in 21, 22. Unbeknownst to the commission, staff made the decision to lock the parks when there was no organized parks associated with them. That went over like a lead balloon. So there was a lot of
Yeah, no,
phone
I'm not
calls.
suggesting that. I'm just saying, while we're talking about standards and procedures, a coach and 4 kids versus all 200 of them.
Yeah, I was really looking more for a standard on how we treat organizations and their fees.
And this is part of that.
And not necessarily try to get in policing who's on the field and who's not on the field. So I think we've heard that there's organizations that we don't charge, and maybe we should. I don't know what those organizations are. It doesn't sound like you want to speak with that right now. I'm not asking you to. So I'm fine with us waiving the fees moving forward, for them to temporarily use this until Frank Nelson is ready.
You got a motion?
Sure, I'll motion that we move forward with waiving fees.
Okay, we've got a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second, so we can discuss and
Let's
figure out how to
discuss.
move forward.
No fees. Take it away. You want to discuss it?
I mean, I just wanted it applied how it's applied everywhere else.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the
Have
summary
we done
I
this
have.
before?
Yeah.
I don't think.
And we're doing it now.
Let me ask this question. Jonathan, you said that there's no way for staff to waive fees, but it sounds like from what Keith just said, there are organizations that have fees waived that I don't know about.
yeah, I've recently become aware that the group at the Daffin Park
So
is not
shouldn't you
paying.
guys fix that before bringing us this one-off thing? Shouldn't that be addressed before we start trying to address it with one singular organization?
I could at least-
Just
We
asking a
keep
question.
talking about one club, but we say there are several that are not paying fees. Who are they? Who's not paying fees in the city?
Currently, there is an off-season, so we are getting our applications to these other groups, and we'll be evaluating what their asks are as we receive them. So we are working with the commissioners or the league representatives from some of these other teams to get them the applications similar to what we sent to St. Andrews Soccer Club, and we'll be evaluating and reviewing those as we receive them. We haven't received any yet to date, and there's not any practices occurring that I'm aware of that are organized.
So this would be a good time to set a policy when we currently don't have anyone who falls into this category.
Correct.
Going forward, staff would have clear direction from this body.
Correct.
Has somebody made an application to you that said, we've always gotten it free, we're just, this year, we're going to ask for the same thing?
We have not received any to that degree other than the St. Andrews Soccer Club application that I've received.
And if we had, that would come to the commission. That's
So-
the directive
Right.
we have, yes.
So I think the question before us now is, do we continue the precedent that we're all saying we don't want to continue and set a standard that the staff can clearly follow?
Yeah, modify my motion to include that we push back to staff and come up with a schedule of fees to be implemented in the future.
They're asking for like 40 grand. A lot, they're asking for $40,000?
That proposal is off the
Gone.
table.
Okay.
Right.
So just for the,
And
just
that,
for
I
the
think,
hours
is-
of practice?
So we're talking about 5 to 8, $75, $150 a week.
600 a month.
From
months?
February
10 months.
17 through May 14, I think. Yep.
I'm fine with that, but I would like to have next agenda, everybody that's using our fields, so that we know who's getting waived and who's not, so that there can either be an affirmation of staff has executed the way that this policy is stated it is now, or there's been something else. I don't need to know how it ended up that way. I just need us to fix it so it's standardized and everyone's being treated the same way. That's
Do we
basically.
modify my motion just so
I-
that-
Yes, that's fine. If it is, everybody is saying, hey, we want to charge people fees, so everybody should be charged fees. I mean, that's the
I mean,
reality.
we've got them on the books.
So,
So that at some point in the past, this city created this fee structure. And somewhere along the way, it changed. And so I want a fair structure for everyone. I said from the beginning, looking for a win-win for community and for the soccer club and now for all teams and sports. So that, it isn't one person gets it or one club gets it or one team gets it and the others don't, just depending on who they ask when they ask.
I think
And
we're
so-
going to find most organized sports organizations are 501c7s, if I had to guess. But I could be wrong. I don't know that because I don't do it. But if that's the standard that we're going to set, then everybody should be treated the same.
So this ask is about $1,000 is what it looks like.
I don't think it should be an elimination between the two. If they're nonprofit, they're nonprofit, and there should be a rate for nonprofit.
You gotta talk.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you.
I couldn't hear you, sir. I'm sorry.
So yeah, I personally don't care about the difference between a C3 and a C7. I would want to see a standard rate for all nonprofits,
Yeah.
period. Like, we're going to treat all of them the same regardless of what.
How they tag themselves is for their benefit,
Yep.
but that doesn't matter to us.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. So yeah, I would amend my motion to support that we have a report back from staff on who is using the fields. And do you want it to have numbers attached to that? Like who's not paying? Or do you
Put
want to
names
just-
of organizations. I mean,
I'm only aware of the Rattlers, and I think it's mostly for practice. I don't believe there's organized league there, is there?
Not right now.
Yeah.
The problem
And so-
is you get into well, how many people are on the field and who's there and is it organized, is it not organized? And I don't think that we necessarily need to decide all those things. I think that's something that you and your office can handle.
my attitude is a park that is unused is useless to anyone.
Agreed.
And so I think we should encourage people to do sports. Now, what that fee structure looks like, I'm open to discussing whatever it needs to be, but I would like everybody to be on the same footing. So
Agreed.
I'll second your motion.
Thank you.
So just to clarify the motion, Jane, Ms. Smith, can you clarify the motion?
I can't, Doreen, can you?
Oh,
It's
boy.
changed about 3
It's
times.
changed. All right, so let me try to simplify it. Due to the fact that we have organizations now that are not paying the city
One.
of Panama City, For use of fields, I will motion that we move forward with the fee waiver for this temporary solution. And that staff brings back what they feel would be a good standard for all nonprofits moving forward, that they would also be under the subject to when they move. And that staff also brings back a report on all organizations that are using our fields and how much they are paying.
Could I request that be the March 10th meeting? I think with the holiday weekend coming up, it's going to be kind of tight to get all that. I just want to make sure, and I think one of you is out for the next meeting.
Yeah, I'm out
So
next meeting.
the March 10th meeting be okay in 1 month?
Due by March 10th.
Good.
We have a motion, we have a second.
Are you gonna
Second.
So, given everything that's brought us to this point, I, as a nonprofit director, know that there are nonprofits that are very different in their scope, in their mission, and in their budget. And so that's what I think we find here. If we want to compare a community-based Glenwood Rattlers, since we've been calling the name, with a travel club that pays its coaches while the Glenwood Rattlers does not. The volunteers, coaches, parents support the teams. I don't think those are apples and apples. They are two distinctly different organizations. And so, just as we would look at the differences between a small business and one that is a multi-million-dollar business, I think that's the distinction that we have here in front of us.
I think I have a compromise. Okay, what if we move forward, they're okay paying the costs, renting the costs
They've
currently.
said that.
And then as we move forward and get the new information, they then can have the new fees applied or not applied to whatever the staff finds and we pass. So they're paying to rent it, and then, but they may change according to what staff comes up with. 'Cause we're trying to like make the sausage up here. I don't know the difference in all these nonprofits. I don't, right? And so it's kind of tough for us. What I hear is a willingness for staff to go research it and bring it back. And I don't want to make all the sausage on the dais. So we kind of moving forward with the rental costs, subject to be changed with whatever Keith and the team bring back and we decide we want to move forward with.
And it hits a need that they have
Yep.
on practice, and it keeps us moving.
And this body does not perpetuate waiving fees without having studied it, which is what we're asking the
I like
staff to
that.
do.
Well, I just want everybody to be treated equally. That's all
As
I'm
do
looking
I.
for. And if we have an organization that is not paying fees, then I feel it the right thing to do to not charge fees if an organization comes to us until we get this squared away, and then every organization is paying fees. That's where I'm at with it. So, with the fees.
I think it'd be easier to instead of going and trying to waive fees for everybody else when we don't know who's paying fees, who's not paying fees. Let's go ahead and let them pay the $150 of whatever it is, and then we can adjust in a month.
Make it to where they're,
Mr. Mayor, I call the question.
Okay. All right. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
No.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
All right, we are now on with the two items regarding the downtown marina. So the first one up, I believe we're going to discuss and then potentially bring it back at the next meeting. This is the reimbursable design and permitting cost, reimbursable to City Marina Partners. You have a letter in here under item, originally item 12C, provided by Mr. Zimmerman. And along with a invoice for $98,163, and I would defer to Mr. Zimmerman to continue this item.
I was thinking this was connected to the next item, but it is by itself. So I believe there's no action. I'm requesting that you allow me to take the feedback I've received from commissioners and go back and provide additional information and bring this back at a subsequent meeting. So that's really all my request. No particular action is required of you. No action just means that I'll bring it back. Is that okay?
what has been brought to you by the commissioners? This is the only chance that we know what, I mean, I was given this and I didn't talk about it though.
Right. The feedback is, well, the mayor gave some feedback, and it was in an email this morning, and Jonathan
Each spot, yep.
distributed. That's the main but I've had, verbal feedback as well on the reasonableness of the cost was one thing. Another was, is everything really connected to what the items that can be reimbursed and the items that are reimbursable are related to design efforts as well as permitting efforts. And so some of those items are getting additional information, allowing me time to go back and talk to CMP. I did talk to Mr. Harrison early this morning and indicated that I would be requesting that the commissioners not take action today and give me an opportunity to go back.
I'd like for us to make sure that we can get this done. Let's not keep kicking this can down the road. We've got other expenses we've got to worry about down there, and let's get this one off the plate before we start talking big numbers, please.
Yes, that's it.
Thank you.
I'm done.
All right. And then item 12E is the estimate, an update estimate of probable cost for the first 50 slips and a potential phasing approach for the full build-out of the downtown Panama City Marina. Just a quick recap, the Public Works team was asked to prepare an estimate of probable costs associated with the needed infrastructure for the first 50 wet slips in the downtown marina in the West Basin. In addition, we were asked to propose feasible phasing approach that will deliver the full build-out of the marina with a reasonable incremental approach. Given that design drawings have not been completed, although they are at 95%, this cost estimate was developed utilizing unit cost data. Due to the lack of full design drawings, a 10% contingency was added to each of the major project components beyond the first 50 slips. Promenade, breakwater extension, and the West Basin. Upland parking and green space improvements, electrical, sewer, water infrastructure groupings is outlined in the estimate in both Table 1 and Table 2 within this memo. Just as also kind of a quick update and reminder, so the commission did around 2 years ago authorize the St. Joe Company to move forward with the design, a full design of both basins, not to exceed $450,000. The St. Joe Company did do that, and they utilized Terrell Hall and Associates, and Todd Terrell is actually here today, the primary design engineer for this project. He's available to answer any questions during this time of deliberation with the commission and staff on this, but we did, some of the staff did meet with him yesterday, and we are really close and nearly ready to go to bid once we kind of get that final thumbs up from the commission on the first 50 slips in that West Basin. And then obviously deciding how we move forward regarding the necessary support infrastructure that would go along with that is also a topic of conversation. So you have the memorandum from the Public Works team looking at all the necessary support infrastructure that would go into building and supporting a particular marina setup. You have the phases approaches in Figure 1. And then a breakdown cost analysis, pretty detailed as Table 2. And so, again, happy to answer any questions, but we are ready to move forward and go to bid in the very near future on those first group of slips, provided a level of comfort and continued readiness from this body. So
Jonathan, who keeps asking, it says in here, we were asked, who keeps asking Public Works to create estimates?
I mean, this was the one ask from, I don't know, several months ago.
Who keeps asking to put numbers together, publicly numbers together for this?
The commission has asked for
We're not going to build this. We're going to put it out to bid. We're putting public numbers out there.
Right.
Okay. We're setting the floor. Okay. Who keeps asking for these numbers from Clint so that we can have these conversations publicly? So, because are we getting the cart before the horse? When we go out publicly, now we know the number, okay? Is that good for the city? Who keeps asking Clint to do that? Is that you?
I mean, I've asked him, and
Okay.
I've had asked from
Was there any
multiple
thought
folks.
process of what it does potentially for the bid? To the bid process?
I'm still not following. I mean, yeah.
Those are good questions, but that's the process that the city always uses for asphalt paving projects, water and sewer projects. There's always a cost estimate.
No, sir. He told us it was going to be an invitation to bid, and it was going to be plans only, and we were going to learn the number from the contractors. That's what Jonathan told us. There was no there was no need to have a cost estimate. We could do one afterwards to make sure to see if it was spot on. Okay.
Well,
No, we do engineering estimates on every project, Commissioner, and we have the 4 years I've been back with the city. I'm telling you, every major infrastructure project has an engineering cost estimate. That's standard practice in this industry. So, but then the actual bid is what comes back from the contractor.
So when you put out a bid, when you put out an RFP to build a road, you tell them what the number is? You've already done the engineering?
There's a cost estimate.
There's a cost estimate associated with it, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we don't know whether or not we can go forward. I mean, if I know a project is $7 million and we don't have the budget for it, I'm not going to go to bid on it. I think that there's always an engineering estimate
Let me give
with
a
these
real life
projects.
one here. If it's reimbursable through FEMA, we got the money here in the $150 million loan. We got the money, so let's take that aside. Why are we setting a number to give to a contractor to hit? That's the floor. Does that make sense? The number's only going to go up.
No, we've seen them come in well underneath the engineering estimate, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Couple
it's
million
because I need to plan out a massive project. So I need to know, okay, I've got $106 million with SRF as an example. I need to know what the engineering estimates are a couple of years in advance of that so that we can plan it. And yeah, that data is out there. But I've seen engineering estimates at $3.5 million. The contractor comes in and bids $2.5 million. That's great. I've seen them be engineering estimate at $3.5 million and it come in at 4.2. That happens. But I have an engineering estimate because I need to know what the scope of the project is and what it will approximately cost me so that I can plan out my resources and so that both senior staff and the elected officials know potentially what's in front of us and as we plan out the scope.
That's
So,
fair.
Yeah, okay.
Except for, we've set up 2 times in this bid, the same thing that happened at St. Andrews. You have no bids for $4.2 million for the slips. You trust that it's the engineers and the designers from St. Joe that says it's okay, just like we trusted our staff in Gorman with the 12.9. It's going to go up. We don't have any plans for the utilities. We trust that they're going to be okay because we have some design work for over here, but we don't have any plans. Why are we putting numbers together on plans? We just went through the exercise. It's going up because we didn't have any plans. My concern is, why do we not design the plans first to work off of to give us a cost estimate? If we're going to design it. I'm also concerned that there's some movement to try to get the city in here to do the construction and all that, and that would be I'll stand at the top of the mountain to fight that one. But it's concerning to me that that's the operation. Now, if that's the way it is, the way it's always been, that seems to be the answer. But that's concerning that we're giving away the answer up front. Does that?
I would think that each one of y'all would want to know approximately what the cost is going to be in order to move this project forward, whether we try to take on certain scopes of it as a city or if we look to do P3s. I mean, I think
I've been begging for it.
Yeah.
I've been begging for it, okay? But this is a number that's created without a set of plans. And this is no slam on Clint. I think he did an incredible job, okay, with no plans. Okay? So here we are again. Is it a number that we trust? Hey, great. It's a big number. Y'all don't like it, but it's something that we have to accept because of that 3-2 vote. We are in place right here that we have to plan as though that we're going to pay for this. We don't have a partner. And so I want to make sure that we don't find ourselves a few months down the road going, well, I mean, we didn't have any plans, and so we're going to have to back out what we don't have, what we can't afford. And here we are again, and now we're in the same spot. Okay, that's my concern.
Yeah, understood.
I think it's Clint Murphy, Director of Public Works. I think it's important to note that the cost estimate I put together is a unit cost estimate. So I'm looking at more from the material side and what it costs to get that material there. When a contractor breaks down the price, they're going to be looking at labor rates, which they keep close to the vest, equipment, different construction methodologies that might save them money. So it's really, this is my best estimate on what it would likely cost, but they're not going to use this as the basis for their bid, I promise.
And you did a great job. This is a great job. This is about process here versus your ability. And what you just said is going to definitely go up. So, and again, I accept all that. I get that about construction.
I was pretty conservative with
Yes,
that
sir.
estimate. It would not surprise me if the price came in underneath that.
Okay.
So.
All right.
I would say it's unusual to be like, how much does this cost? And that is unusual from coming from the private sector. And so I will acknowledge that.
Right.
This is a
Well,
new
it's just like,
experience.
I don't agree that when I sell your house, the appraiser gets a copy of the contract. Why does he get to know what the number is? His job is to establish a price.
Sure, sure.
That's what we're doing here, is we're giving the answer away up front. That may be the best method. I don't know. But this morning was a great, it hit me this morning was a great exercise, and we're doing the same thing again.
Agreed. I don't want to get into getting numbers that feel firm that are no plans behind it, because you don't really, there's a lot of details up for.
Which means that we need the plans drawn and engineered for the utilities, which are included in this, along with the set of plans that the design engineers from St. Joe, all that needs to be together. That way we have the right number.
What do we need to decide today related to this item?
We're actually at the point where we could turn in a permit application. So I would love to get approval to do that. And what we
Motion
would
to approve permit application.
Okay, we have a motion.
Permit for what?
Well, for clarity, so we're ready to go to bid on, it's actually 44 slips, but to go to bid on that and then immediately submit the application for the permit for the full build-out, which is the recommendation of the design engineer with Terrell Hall. So,
Can we, on our permit, are we allowed to go to bid with that with 44? We don't have to change it because it has 50?
No, it actually, Mr. Zimmerman can wait on that. I'll
Yep.
on top of him. Sorry, sir.
That's fine. There, and Mr. Terrell's here. And as far as any specific questions on the permitting, what we have is a permit exemption.
Right.
And the permit exemption in the narrative of the permit exemption is 44 slips. On the drawing, it talked about a couple of lay-along or floating docks. In follow-up conversations with DEP, they've indicated that the city, that permit exemption does not include the floating docks, and the city would have to come back. And the floating docks are right along Harrison's, as well as Indigo, and Mr. Murphy's not here today, Patrick Murphy. This Mr. Murphy is. Patrick Murphy is not here, but it's my understanding that, St. Joe, who hired the engineer who is here, understands that, and that is not, anyway, we cannot build those two floating docks with the exemption according to DEP. So what would the first, as far as what are we doing here today? The first ask would be, we're prepared, and Mr. Terrell indicated within a few days, they would give us all the special conditions for the bid specs, and the 44 slips could be bid out. Okay, that's really the first item. The second item that was mentioned is going ahead and filing for a permit for the entire
Both basins.
both basins for the entire marina. And Mr. Hall can answer this much better than me, but once you apply for all of it and get it, and it's based upon the plans it's based upon the 90% drawings that are pursuant to the concept drawing, concept that you've already approved, it's much easier to make tweaks to an existing permit than it is to get a new one. So in other words, after the basin is built, which is the western, southwest, or northwestern basin by Hotel Indigo, If there's a desire to change anything on the other basin before it's built, the permit is for 5 years, and you'd have an opportunity to come back and decide, based upon recommendations, that something needs to be different, and that could be tweaked, and that's much easier than waiting and not applying. So the request is that under their St. Joe agreement, they believe they can go ahead and submit the application and get that process started.
And the engine that makes all this run, the utilities, where does that fit into being engineered and submitted for bid?
Can I offer something?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So for me, I love the idea of getting the first 44 slips out to bid, just so we can get a hard cost on that. We don't have to execute that. We still haven't figured out how we're going to pay for that. I'd like to get the other basin permitted. Let's go and get that started. So like staff wants to do that. And then I'd like to get more definitive information on the FEMA money and start that discussion of how that money gets spent. Where's the fastest way to execute?
5 million.
The 5 million, correct. And so that could be, and then really we should be talking about the plans of what the utilities are actually needed so that we can start getting quotes on those.
We know, well, no, I'm gonna draw it. We got, that part's the easy part, actually, of what's needed. That's a known, those are known quantities. How about, I'll throw it at you. What if we go ahead, we have the fully designed set of plans for the boat ramp. In about 60 days, we'll have the permit. What if we go ahead and put that out for bid, tie it to the $150 million loan, and let's go ahead and do the boat ramp. We're gonna need to do it. Why don't we go ahead and have some activity down there, and it will also delineate the east side of the marina of what's available for development, and it gives us some activity down there. That's $2 million. We were worried about $2 million earlier, but.
The $150 million loan is only for reimbursable projects, except for the 12.9 for the St. Andrews.
I was about to say, hold on a second.
That's the only.
Why
that's
is
the
that an
only
exception?
Because the bank approved it.
All right, with bank approval, how about we add, subject to the bank approval?
So you're never paying it back.
Okay.
Well, I think
they're paying it 12 point, it's easier for them to believe in 2.2 million coming back to 12.9. But now you can get some activity while you're waiting on these other things.
Actually, we would stop activity because it would be under construction, so there would
No.
be no activity going on.
No, over there.
Yeah, the boat ramp definitely needs to be worked on. I don't know how high it is in the priority of what citizen, I mean, there's
They want
acknowledgement of, but people want slips and they want the sidewalk and they want to, and I'd like to have that be a whole separate discussion that we don't have to bake today. We've got some certainty of putting the 44 out to bid and getting the permits going on the next, that seems pretty, those could be separate motions or together. I don't really.
Can I ask Michael a question?
Sure.
Mr. Fuller?
Nice big sigh.
He's like, man, I almost made it through the whole meeting.
It's almost lunchtime.
This is close. From a development order process and permitting process, in order for us to get started on the slips, what will you need from us? And let me back up. The city is treated the same way as everybody else, correct? We have to go through the development order process just like everybody else. Yes or no?
I mean,
All right.
I would assume so, yes.
All right, so if we have slips, but we don't have enough one, does that get us a development order? If we don't have engineering for that, is there something that would keep us from getting a development order?
Typically, we would issue a development order for the entire thing, the slips and the upland. And I
Okay, so
think
that
that's
means you
what-
would have both sets, up and wet.
Yeah, and I think that's what his bid showed, included the slips and the upland improvements.
Yes, sir, but what we're talking about now is sending out the new design for bid, and we don't have the other engineered drawings for the uplands. This is his estimate. So those can't go out for bid. So I'm asking is, if I can't get a development order to move forward with my bid over here, how long is that bid good for? One, while we're trying to get the other, so we can get the development order and move forward by doing both. Because that's what you're saying, is you gotta have both.
Right.
Something to consider.
So do we still have a motion on the table?
Is there a motion?
No, I made one, but I don't think I got seconded.
Oh, what was your motion?
I motioned that we move forward with the permitting process, but then Jonathan interjected with, we're ready to move forward.
So let's
on
just do it one at a time then.
34. So I think let's move forward with what we have designed in the full permitting process and move forward with going out to bid on the 44 slips
In the West Basin.
that are currently permit exempt.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Can we talk
So-
to the designer before we?
Sure.
We haven't heard.
Absolutely. Come on down. Yes, sir.
All right.
So the motion's to move forward with the bid for the 44 slips
And then the
Correct.
permit for,
And permit for the full.
and permit for the full.
Based upon the
good,
plans
almost
that.
afternoon.
that
Right.
Mr. Terrell.
Yes, sir.
You just give your name, title, and organization for
Yeah,
the
I don't
public.
normally wear a coat, but I was told to. Anyhow, my name's Todd Terrell. I'm an ocean engineer. I have a company called Terrell Hall and Associates. We specialize in marinas. We do not do upland engineering or architecture. We are marina guys. So we're working all over the state, all over the Caribbean. We probably got 20 marinas going right now. We've been working on this marina for St. Joe for, geez, like 5 years. I guess there's like 7 plans out there. Anyhow, but we have a couple of ocean engineers. One of our senior engineers actually grew up here in Panama City and worked for Harder, and then went on to Meisner Marine, which was the biggest marine construction company in the Southeast. And he built the Apalachicola Bridge and the Swan. So anyway, so we know how to do, to watch construction. We don't do construction. We hire guys like, Gorman. He did a good job for us over in Port St. Joe. So anyhow, we're there. As far as the design is concerned, it's been through all these different iterations. We like the mix of slips. A lot of times we do, preparatory work. We've just done a slip analysis over in Pensacola. We know what the market is in Port St. Joe. You're in the middle, right? So, and you guys are kind of trending towards what we're doing down in South Florida in the Keys. It's moving towards, bigger boats, right? And it's also moving towards boats that are on boat lifts. People like that. And big ones, like 40 and 50 foot ones. And the one thing to always remember as you look at this plan is you can always put a smaller boat in a bigger slip, but you cannot do the reverse. So if you're gonna err on the side of big, right? So, and it isn't overly big. There's only a couple of 100-foot slips, a lot of 30s, 40s, 50s. And that's 40 and 50 foot boat lift slips are what sells out first in most of our marinas. You see, I almost don't understand it still, these 4-engine things, but it is what it is, and you got a $1 million, boat that's 50 feet on a lift. But, those people, even though, that maybe a lot of people in Panama City don't have those boats, just like they don't in Port St. Joe, those people will come from, wherever they're coming from, and if they can afford $1 million, Freeman or something, they're gonna spend some money in town, and maybe even buy a place here. So we think that marinas like this are drivers, for the economy, and I think you guys probably agree. I mean, you need to get this going, right? I guess I could go on. The phasing, I think, is a really good idea, though. You build part of it, you see what it is, you build the rest of that basin maybe, but we can't build the part up there, the floating dock up by the Indigo and stuff like that, until we get that breakwater in. I was here 3 weeks ago when that big cold front came from, and it looked like out of an ocean engineering textbook, with the wave reflection. The waves will bounce off the walls, and there was crossing seas in there. I wouldn't want to be on a floating dock with that. And if you did do a floating dock, it's going to have to be a very big and expensive one compared to after you build the breakwater. Then it can be a much more reasonable one. So I would recommend waiting on that until the breakwater's done. And I'd recommend moving ahead with permitting as soon as you can, because it's brutal. My firm has a permitting department that's ladies that do biologists, that do it. So we're good at doing it, but with all the federal agencies that report to the Corps, and it's just a miserable process. So the sooner the better, to get on with it. And then once you do the, the one basin, then you have some data to adjust the other basin. And in our plan on the other basin, every slip in there will have the ability to put a boat lift, if that's what the demand shows. If it shows that we need just wet slips, then we don't put the lifts in. So we've designed this with flexibility. It'll be safer than the earlier marina. We got another little breakwater section over by the fuel dock, So I think it's a really good design. And as far as the time that it's taken to get here, I do a lot of yacht clubs and some municipal, and so it's really not unusual. But at some point, you just got to pull the trigger and apply for the permit. So I think that's where you're at.
So if you made this into phases, you said phase 1, no breakwater, phase 2 needs a breakwater. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, the breakwater, needs to, that would be that's what we'd be applying for the permit, Now,
Because it's not in the special, it's not in the permit exemption.
it's not for the it's not in there for the
We couldn't
44
build it
slips.
anyway with it.
Yeah.
In your experience, what do you see in absorption rates around the state on marinas coming online? Are they filling up quick or no?
Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable sometimes. I mean, Port St. Joe's already got a multi-year waiting list, and that happens with a lot of them. I mean, they are in there right away, because the other thing a lot of times people worry about, be it yacht clubs or municipal marinas, is you spend all this money building these fancy slips, and oh my God, is anybody going to come? And there's a lot of people that used to be there that want to have their same slip and pay their same amount. But again, it's been our experience that here they come, like fast. And the 40 and 50 foot slips, you better get in line fast. Now the second I say that, we'll have a depression or something into this. But I truly believe that this will be very successful, just like Port St. Joe. And I don't know why it would be any different. And I think Panama City is a great place. So.
In your experience, the engine, I said the utilities, we need to have, that needs to show up at the same time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You believe in laying all of it out now for the future. It's cheaper to do it that way than piecemeal it together. And now you know where your design is, so you're stubbing it out. Is that the path you normally see?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously up to you. It's going to be, you'll be a while in the permitting and stuff. But yeah, I think getting the infrastructure done on the uplands is a good idea. We have given the city the loads that are coming out of the marina, and all we really need is where are we getting the electrical through the wall? Where are we getting the water? Where are we getting the fire? Where's that coming? And then you guys on the uplands, the civil engineers, the city, bring it to us.
And Clint's estimate here is reflective of all of those things, all of those utility connections that he's talking about in the different phases. He just connects right into them on the water and the fire stands.
Yep.
Do we have 100% set of plans from him yet?
Basically 95.
Yeah, we're at 95%, on the 44 slips. That's right.
I told Michael, I said, when I turn in house plans, they gotta be 100%, so we gotta be 100% for somebody else.
Yeah. No, well, we're at 95% because it was kind of pending this meeting today.
Right.
If you guys say go, it's 100%, unless somebody goes, they don't like it. Okay?
Thank you.
All right.
So we have a motion on the table and a second to go out to bid for 44 slips and go out for permitting for the rest of the basins. Is that correct?
Yes.
Any discussion?
Guys, we're missing the main component. Why do you keep avoiding it? You gotta have the other part to make the docks work.
Sure.
Why don't we address it now?
Can we go ahead and pass this one and talk about that in a second?
Well, that's what you tried that with Janice too. Why is it so hard to accept? I gotta have both. He just told us he's bringing them to that side of the wall, and we gotta come to this side of the wall. I get that that's gonna start sooner. That's not the issue. The issue is putting them out together gets us a number. Remember, we're paying for it. We gotta act like that. We gotta get a number up front. and that gets us a real number that's designed, engineered, and bid. Tell me that's a bad idea, please.
I'd love, do we need plans for that? Because I'm happy to support getting some plans, which is what you brought up before, so we have, we're talking about some of the concrete.
We couldn't get bids until this nice gentleman completed his. I would think that we need to not move forward without him.
One of the things we could consider would be to do that design in-house. We have the capabilities to do that with the exception of the electrical.
And nobody's gonna do that, right? Because
Well,
they
we've
have to
reached
do
out
their
to
own.
FPL.
Yeah, FPL does their own.
Yeah, they also do engineering for your project as well. Yeah.
So I'm supportive of getting that infrastructure, or what that is, whether it's all the slips or just the 44, but seeing both the paths. I'm supportive of that. If we need to do that in-house, I'm fine with that too. I don't think that should stop us from going out to bid for 44 slips. I mean,
Fair.
we can certainly hold back the decision to move forward with building the 44 slips.
But he's not gonna give us development order, so until we have that. That's what he just told us. We don't get to move forward without engineering and slip bid.
Did I just understand you guys are doing the engineering yourself?
Okay, if you want to do
That is a
now you got
possibility.
me.
We could do that.
Now, I'm good, if we can get some engineering in this motion,
So can I
I'm good
amend my
with it.
motion to include having the city team move forward with engineering on the infrastructure? Does that work?
Yeah. We would need to exclude the electrical because we
Yeah,
don't have that
of course.
capable.
Whatever you guys are capable of doing.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion?
Please call the question.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
I believe that's it.
I believe that's
Motion
it.
to adjourn.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Commissioner Granger?
Yes.
Commissioner Street?
Yes.
Commissioner Hughes?
Yes.
Commissioner Lucas?
Yes.
Mayor Branch?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Meeting is adjourned. Clap, clap.